We're going to call the meeting to order. Let's all stand for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two announcements. First, we'd just like to state that Jackie Guaman is now the mayor's designee, and Frank Zangari is the Class 4 member. Also, we'd like to have a moment of silence. Last night, a former town councilman and longtime civic leader of Belleville passed away, Kevin Kennedy. So we have a moment of silence in his remembrance. Corinne, can you read the statement of certification of the meeting?
The meeting has been advertised according to Sunshine Law.
Please call the roll.
Chairman Venero.
Here.
Mayor Melham.
Here.
Mr. Zangari. Mr. Conti.
Here.
Mr. Banda.
Here.
Mr. Gold.
Here.
Mr. Corvo. Mr. Graziano.
Here.
Ms. Gorman. Ms. Rico.
Here.
Mr. Novarato. Mr. Guines.
Here.
Mr. DiLorenzo.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
And Mr. Rubin filling in for Ms. DeVito.
Here. Can I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of the January 9th, 2020 meeting?
Make a motion. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Venero.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Banda.
Yes.
Mr. Gold.
Yes.
Mr. Graziano.
Yes.
Mayor Melham. Ms. Rico.
Yes.
And Mr. Guines.
Yes.
Resolutions to be memorialized. We have PB 2707 plus A 212-216 Belleville Avenue 711. They were? All of them? We're going to hold all the resolutions until the next meeting. Adjournments, we have part 2 of 705-757 Main Street, Block 1001, Lot 3, Belleville Industrial Center, opposing attorney. The owners would like to have this kept on the agenda to the next meeting, and will give the property owners the opportunity to review its options and possibly avoid opposing topology report, etc. So the 705, 757 Main Street will be carried to the next meeting with no further announcement. Comments, communications from the chairman. We received a resignation letter from Jacqueline Guaman, as I stated, and she's now the mayor's designee. And our Mayor Melham has appointed Frank Zangari to be our Class 4 member. Applications before the board. We have PB 2002, 58 Bellavista Avenue, Belleville Board of Education, Block 9804, Lot 16. It's a courtesy submission for a proposed maintenance building on Board of Ed property adjacent to School 9. Yes.
Come up on this side, right? What are you still? Yes, good.
Okay, sir, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Jeffrey Curry with the Rubino Architects, 30 Galisi Drive, Wayne, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Good evening. We're here on behalf of the Belleville School District. They would like to put a new maintenance garage up at 58 Bellavista Avenue, which is immediately adjacent to School 9. The maintenance garage is going to be used for light truck repairs and bus repairs. There'll be a small office, a bathroom, and a locker area for any changing. And they're just going to do oil changes, brakes, simple repairs like that. There won't be any leaks or anything of that nature. And they want to store some seasonal equipment, plows, lawn mowers, that kind of stuff when they're not in use. The building is 2,358 square feet, 34 and a half feet wide, and 68 feet long. And it's being proposed at just under 18 feet tall. So the district allows 3 stories. Right now, it's being proposed as just a prefab steel building with a concrete foundation. Very simple.
Anybody have any questions? This is just a courtesy, we have no vote on this, it's just a courtesy anytime a town building is built that they come before the planning board.
I just, if I may?
Sure.
So as I mentioned in our council meeting on Tuesday, this came before, I actually went to a Board of Education meeting, and as a former Board Ed, and now sitting councilman, we talked about shared services. And it came to us as a courtesy, like you said, so thank you so much. But I think that the town has a lot to offer for shared services. We have things existing that I would love to see even addressed. I know we can't, I guess, no, it's not our decision, but I still have a hard time understanding why there wasn't some conversation between super and town manager on to see how we can share our services. Again, we're storing. The buses, we get sent out because there's no diesel mechanics in the Board of Education. We have them in the town. They come down, they get gas down by us. They would be stationed down there too. There's a lot of other property. We have the facilities, we have the hangars. And that money can be used, whichever that number is, don't know, could be put to something else, whatever Dr. Tomko felt or the board felt that it could be used for.
Right.
I'm just voicing my opinion because shared services, we all need to step up. So I'm just saying it loud because of that reason. You know, we want to help the taxpayer, we want to help us across the board, and I'm just thinking, hey, it would be a nice conversation between town manager and superintendent to see how we can help all of us. That's all, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
In terms of the height of the building, if you ever wanted to put a lift in that garage to make it more useful, would you be able to at the elevation that it's being built to now?
Not for a bus,
No.
but you could for a truck, a small truck that they have, but not a bus.
What would you have to do to get a bus to be on the lift?
Probably just raise it up higher.
Thought,
It is a
it
thought.
is our tax dollars.
Right.
Go down the road and say, you know, we would have gotten a diesel mechanic, but we can't raise the buses in the $500,000 building we just built.
Depends on what you want to do to the bus, though. I mean, a lot of buses are high enough off the ground that you don't really need to lift them that high.
And I'm sure you don't keep them that long either.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to the director of facilities, Rich Henry, about it, and he's just looking for a place to store vehicles, because right now he has them at all the different schools. School 8, he has some in some other schools in the parking lots. And Dr. Tomko has asked Rich Henry to get all that stuff cleaned up. He wants the schools to be schools and not storage yards. And so that's why we were looking at doing this.
So if I may, I'm sorry. So if I may, the buses are located in 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, because
They're
there
gonna
were
be down
issues
here?
that are here. No, they were parked here, is my understanding, but they moved them to 10 because they had a couple of issues with vandalism.
So they'll still be there at 10?
I think he's gonna park some buses, I'm not 100% sure, I don't wanna say he is or he isn't. I just know that he said he wanted the front paved so that he could park buses out there.
And I do get it. I go back to, there's a piece of property down there that we used to, I think it's a basketball court now, that the town
Basketball
has.
court and a roller hockey rink.
And all of that land, which is close to the facility of DPW, where we have big hangars, where it's gated, where they get gas. And our town manager's doing a phenomenal job in cleaning it all out. We're a town, we're together, you know, and it makes sense to share those services from the land perspective, and also services from a diesel mechanic to a regular mechanic for both towns and Board of Ed for all vehicles. Again, I just keep going back there because you're still, you know, once the security cameras go in, you're all locked in, so it's a good thing to have. And that's a different area down here for this type of application. But again,
Anybody else have any more comments? If not, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thanks. We'll leave these.
We don't get
Next up, we have PB 2001, which is 74-01 Washington Avenue and 75 William Street. 78-102 Washington Avenue Urban Renewal, LLC. Block 8503, lots 4 through 11. Applicant is seeking preliminary and final site plan approval for the development of a 158-unit mixed-use multifamily building with 3 retail commercial spaces.
I think they're on the wall with
Oh, good. We don't need to do one?
No, these are a little better. Did you do color? Yeah.
Number side but there's two, these two numbers on the side.
Yeah, I'm gonna borrow.
I'm gonna place you on the road.
Sure, but I'm
Are you test? Oh, I thought there was testing.
Huh?
I didn't think there was an attorney.
Oh, there's always an attorney.
That's what I thought.
We've never let us.
I asked her if there was an attorney. She would have known I was talking about another case.
We might want to go here.
You need to be on the road. You fooled me with this plan.
No, there's. But not. You don't have that. Yeah, oh yeah, go ahead. Sure. Good evening, thank you. My name's Joe DeMarco. I'm in the middle of the.
Might work a little better.
There you go. So we're here tonight for the application for 74102 Washington Avenue. It also includes 75 Williams Street. It's not that far from here, so I know you all know what it looks like, where it is. I'm just going to go over a little bit before I call the engineer up. It's, an empty lot for the most part. It's got a warehouse that sits down Williams Street. It's really outdated and not usable. And it's got the one two-family house with commercial on top of it. So all that's included in it. We're here in accordance with the redevelopment plan that was passed by this board and then the council to implement that redevelopment plan and build 158 residential units, mixed use, about 10,000 square feet of commercial. It'll have 178 parking spaces. The commercial is demisable various different ways, but the corner will be a restaurant that was required in the redevelopment plan, so it will be a restaurant tenant that we will seek for that, and it can be designed that way. The rest of the commercial, though, you can see in the plans, is a little bit flexible, and we're looking for that flexibility just to be able to attract someone. So it might be 3 units, it might be 2, it might be 1. We do have some extra parking, so if you look in one of the sheets, you'll see 2 different layouts, and that's to give some depth to retail if someone wanted that. So there may be some flexibility with the 178 parking spaces. It might go down to 170 or 165, but it still would comply with the plan either way. So that's why those 2 options are out there. With that being said, I'm going to swear in the engineer and take some testimony. Unless anyone has any other questions.
No.
Joe?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last
Okay,
name.
James Fury, F-E-U-R-Y.
Thank you.
Over there, yeah,
Your board out?
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So, James, for the record and for the benefit of the board, can you just state your educational background, your licenses?
Okay, I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Villanova University and a Master of Civil Engineering from NJIT. I have a license in the state of New York, professional engineer, a license in the state of New Jersey as a professional engineer, and I'm a certified municipal engineer in New Jersey.
And you've testified before?
I have.
And you've been accepted as an expert?
Yes.
We'll accept your witness as an expert.
Thank you, Chairman. James, can we just start off about the site itself, where it sits, its elevation, how it sits?
The site is located at the intersection of Washington Avenue. It's at the southeast corner of Washington and William Street. It extends about 400 feet along Washington and about 140 feet along William Street. As Attorney DeMarco described, it's pretty much empty except for a little building in the middle. That was the office for the used car dealer. There's a warehouse over here that's vacant, it's going to be knocked down. And here's the multifamily that has a residential upstairs and the commercial downstairs. That's also going to be moved. The property itself kind of drains to the north, which is along Washington, the curve, and then it makes a turn at Williams and goes down this way right toward the railroad, eventually making it to the Passaic Railroad.
And its current coverage is
Current
100%.
coverage is almost 100%. It's very close to that. There's mostly paved, there's a lot of roof, there's some stone areas which in effect are almost impervious.
And you reviewed the plans that are proposed in this
Yes.
project? And could you tell us about those plans and
Okay,
from an engineering perspective?
As you mentioned before, there's going to be 158 units in here. The applicant is proposing to build 178 parking spaces to serve those units. There's a one-story below-ground parking garage. There's one parking garage, these are both indoor, at ground level, and there are 4 stories above that with all the residential units. Since the site has pretty much impervious coverage, I'm not anticipating any additional or very small additional runoff because of the roof area. And you propose drain picking up roof runoff, bringing it out to Williams, and then hooking it into an existing storm drain that's running down.
And is it correct, you will comply, or the building and the developer will comply with all the stormwater regs required?
Absolutely. There was a few comments in the engineer's report of February 3rd. They've been directed by the applicant to work with the engineer to satisfy those concerns.
And you did review the February 3rd, 2020 report of the engineer?
Correct.
Of the town, correct. And with regards to that, you feel you can comply with the request with regards to the landscaping and the drainage?
Oh, yeah, I believe we certainly can.
Okay. And you responded to that effect?
Yes.
Is that correct? Can you turn to the page with the sidewalk detail on it, or the ground floor?
Yeah. Can you mark these, the full set as A1, please?
Sure. So, can you point out, there was some discussion between the town planner and the town engineer with regards to that corner and its ability to have the capacity to have pedestrian, traffic, and outdoor seating for the restaurant. Based upon your plans, is there sufficient capacity to allow pedestrians to walk by and still accommodate the outdoor seating?
Yes, there is. There's an area in here, 6 feet, where the tables and the seating is proposed to be installed. After that, there's another 8 feet just out to where the tree wells are. So the 8 feet is more than twice the width, it's basically twice the width of a regular sidewalk. And then there's some additional concrete that goes out to the curb.
And is it also your testimony, I understand that the state is going to have certain requirements for how that sidewalk may have to look, and we would comply with those
Yes.
requirements?
They have an overall plan that they're developing for Washington Avenue improvement, and yes, the applicant is willing to comply with it.
Correct, and there's sufficient space and
Yes.
room for us to comply with all those requirements. Can we talk a little bit, James, about the parking area?
Okay.
So, there's a mistake on that plan, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, can you just highlight where the mistake on the
Right
plan?
here, it says 22.1 feet.
Okay, when you say right here,
Okay.
you're talking about the corner?
It's
Yeah.
next to the area that's kind of set aside for the retail and the restaurant. So right in this portion of the parking lot, there's a dimension of the aisle is 22.1 feet. It's supposed to be 24.1 feet, so it's a drafting error.
So it is actually 24.
That's correct.
So I'd just like to note for the record, there is an exception on that plan, and that is,
We've already made the revision, but we haven't had time to submit.
To submit.
because we didn't.
On the architectural plan, it's shown as 24 feet.
that's correct.
Correct.
So what you're saying is the architectural plan is correct and the engineering plan is incorrect?
It's a discrepancy,
That's
yeah.
right.
Okay.
But there is, as you go further down, a 22 and
Okay,
6 inch
that's on
in the lower level
Okay.
of the basement.
Right, on the basement level, there's an area at the very southern end along Washington Avenue where in here it's 22 feet. and it's supposed to be 24.
I think it's actually 22.6?
22.6, yes. The applicant is proposing to widen that out to 24 feet, reduce the 6 spaces that are along the easterly wall here by that extra 1.5 feet, 1.4 feet, and just designate those as handicap spots to be used only by handicap, compact cars, right? Compact, excuse me, compact cars.
So those 6 spaces where the drive aisle
It's 22.6.
is a foot and a half short, is your testimony that by shrinking the length of the parking spaces to accommodate compact cars only, that then would suffice and bring us to 20-foot drive aisle?
That's correct.
And is your testimony also that the 24-foot drive aisle is sufficient for cars to freely move in and out without a problem in this parking?
Yes, that's a standard highway.
Correct. And we would gladly have that as a resolution compliance to make those changes to the plan to reflect that.
And he'll submit an auto turn exhibit to me, just to show everything can circulate.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Yes,
We can
okay.
do that also
Yes.
as part of the compliance.
Okay.
Now, there were some comments in the engineer's report with regards to landscaping, plantings, and things of that nature. Did you have an opportunity to review that?
We did, and there was some suggestion that maybe you put landscaping in this area here. It's a dark area, landscaping is not going to survive in there. So, right, so this is along the easterly side of the building. Beginning at the south end of the property, coming all the way up, going in that jog where that existing warehouse is. And instead, we're just putting Riverstone in there to maintain it and keep it from eroding.
And then, but we will do landscaping and plantings on the Washington and Williams side.
Yes, actually, there's a landscape plan that shows plantings along Williams right here. And it's depicted right on the plan.
And by my count, there were at least 16 street trees that wind up being put into the plan.
That's on sheet number 8. Okay, you've got 13 of the big trees in the tree wells.
All right, 13, my bad. Sorry. There was also a comment about additional signage required or should be placed to alert pedestrians in the area where the driveways are.
Okay. Applicant has agreed to provide whatever signs that the board, or the county, or the state wants at those 2 locations.
Are there any other issues that need to be addressed with regards to the engineer's report?
All the utilities are coming in off William Street. I know there was a request for analysis of the sewer system, which we'd be glad to do and work with the DPW on that.
And there was an issue as to grading and drainage in the parking decks. I know the
Right.
basement floor is graded to drain.
Right, the lower parking area is graded and such that the water's going to go out to William Street. The upper parking area at this point is pretty much flat, so we'd be glad to work with the engineer to come up with something that
But
was
you're
satisfactory.
confident that the design of the building can accommodate that drainage?
Oh, yeah,
that
definitely,
you're-
without a doubt.
And we would make that change.
Yes.
At this time, I have nothing else of the engineer.
I had a question about the parking, should I address it to the engineer or someone else?
You can, yeah, let's see.
I'm just curious, on the tandem parking, how's that gonna work? There's gonna be one car parked in front of another one?
Yes.
Correct.
How are they gonna be assigned?
So I'll answer that if I may. The intent is to assign all parking per units.
Right.
This way you can control the compact nature of the handicap. So some of those tandem units may, because they're excess, may be used for the commercial, so 2 workers may use it. Or we do have a mix of 2 bedrooms, so those people may use it for the excess parking. The tandem, is a way to just increase the parking available to the tenants.
Yeah, I know, it's increased the parking, but I just wonder how feasibly it's gonna work, like how do you lock somebody else in?
And it's gotta be a sign. I recommended they do assigned parking anyway, because there's dead-end parking there, so you don't want someone looking for a parking space
Right.
and then have to back all the way out. So if you assign the parking, it'll make it a lot easier.
2 bedrooms require 2 spots, or no?
No.
So how do you gonna assign?
per unit.
I just don't know how that's gonna work.
It was 1 per unit. It was 1 per unit. So there's 28 extra spaces, of which those are tandem.
You clear with that? Or how do you,
I live in a building with tandem parking.
really?
People work it out, yeah. My spot's a tandem spot.
Wow. Yeah?
Question on the water.
Okay.
Are you holding any of the stormwater on site, or is it going directly to the street?
At present, there's nothing being held out, nothing being detained. at the moment.
Presently, but what about?
But we'll
after
work with the
construction?
engineer if he, feels that there's a certain area or a certain amount that should be detained, we'll work with them.
Usually we try to improve that condition,
Okay.
and not, either hasten it or.
I think he wants us to look at the storm sewer, make sure the capacities of the pipes are okay. So if we can keep it in the pipes and it's okay, and it goes right out the river, then it's not a problem.
Because at this point, it really, it is permeable, because the asphalt is deteriorated,
Falling
and also a lot of water is going through it. So when you build over it, you'll make it worse than it is.
But if I can ask a question, maybe clarify, that would be helpful. So Jim, the building though with that slab would accommodate a detention system, could be replaced into that if required?
It could be somewhere on the site.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Harris, there's gonna be some kind of detention, I don't know.
He didn't propose any, but I'll look into that and have him hold some water back.
I've never seen a project of this size not have a plan for the water detention.
Right, I was just gonna say, I'm a little surprised if we're not seeing it on the way.
Why won't we ask?
Usually they're in a plan, I don't know why we don't have it in a plan. I'm sure Mr. Frantantoni will bring it up, but he's a critic of flooding in the valley section, and we don't want to increase the runoff.
yeah, your water company and provider and sewer company is going to have certain standards that we're going to have to comply with in terms of stormwater regulations for the detention. I mean, the system, the building can accommodate it because of its nature of the way it's, so.
And Mr. Harris, who will determine that, you or?
Yes.
Okay. We'll make that, if this is approved, we'll make that a condition. They have to
Comply with.
comply with your report on the stormwater management.
I think the argument was that they're not creating any more
Well, could
I
argue
disagree on
I
that.
could argue the argument
space. I think that was the argument, I'm not saying.
Yeah, we've got broken asphalt there, that water definitely percolates down into the soil now.
And I used to be in the pavement business, and we would be called into a flat lot that was basically gravel, and then the people wanted to pave over it, so, well, where was the water gonna go? Well, where's it going now? Well, it's going in the ground right now. Once we pave over it, we're gonna collect it. So right now, that lot really isn't a paved lot. And I would argue that stormwater management shouldn't really depend on what exists, right? We should at least keep it, we should improve it, if anything, especially in today's day and age.
I agree.
Especially with some of the issues that we do have in the town. I thought that it would be pretty common that you would hold some of that water back.
So they
Release
work with
it
the
gradually.
engineer.
And again, I think we would accommodate your engineer's requirement with regards to stormwater, whether it's 20% or 30%
Yeah, hold some of
increase
that,
or
just
something.
to not put an extra burden
Yeah.
on the system.
But we can, with the engineers, they can run the flow calculations and determine what would be produced and how it's best handled, whether on site or, piping in the sidewalk or retention.
Mostly you'd have roof water.
Right now, we have the roof water being collected at the downspouts, and there's a pipe running along the building here, right here, and then out into the existing storm drain.
Right, which would really, I think, make the current condition worse.
Correct, but that pipe can be oversized
Right.
with a backflow preventer on it, and they can conserve, the pipe itself
How
conserves.
many square feet is the roof?
It's
What's the footprint of the building?
It's 100.
It's probably about
0.9 acres.
Yeah, it's an acre of land.
Yeah, it's 40,000 square feet.
In a big rainstorm, it's a lot of
Yeah.
water, yeah. That's what you're worried about.
But again,
It's almost an acre roof. It's almost an acre.
but to your point, Commissioner, gladly work with your engineer and satisfy the requirement.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else on the board have questions of this witness? Does anybody in the public have a question of this witness?
Can I ask you, the restaurant, how you have placed the truck back in to loading, and where the truck can loading the merchandise for the restaurant? Where? You have a restaurant, right? You say you have the one store for a restaurant. How to loading the food for a restaurant? Where
That
you
was brought
loading?
up in one of your professionals' reports, so.
So, if I may, with regards to that, any loading zone will be the purview of the council and not necessarily the planning board. So if we needed to accommodate with that use, depending on what the restaurant and what its time would be, loading zone, because that deals with on-street parking, would have to be an application that we would have to present to the council in terms of their ability to restrict it and whether or not it has to be earlier or later.
So are you suggesting that the board make any approval contingent on council granting a loading area? And what happens if they don't? Does that mean you've got to come back here?
I did not say that I would make it a condition of, I would say that my
Well, then,
understanding.
if you can't, don't you need to satisfy the board how you're going to load and unload if you don't get that from the council?
That is true, but at this point, we don't know what the restaurant is and what the requirements are.
But it's for all the retail, not just move in, and what about like deliveries from, Amazon and FedEx and everybody else that gets delivered now? If you don't have a loading area, what's this board supposed to do?
So, I mean, there is a large amount of on-street parking. There is a garage that, will have spaces that will not always be occupied. There are spaces that are accessed that would be given to commercial that could also be used possibly for package delivery or designated space that's left over for, tenant loading or unloading.
Well, your architect was recommending a limited time loading zone on Washington Avenue.
Yeah. But that,
Which would need, I guess, the council and maybe the DOT's approval to do that.
but that's where that
So any approval will be conditioned upon that being granted, because otherwise there'd be no loading.
I mean, that would be this board, up to this board whether or not they wanted to make it a condition. I would suggest not, but, the ability to grant the loading zone is going to be governed by the municipal body.
And the state.
And the state, yes. Unless it's on William Street, then that just be.
What's the height clearance for the garage?
The architect answered that.
Do you know?
No, I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Anybody else in the public? Mr. Sheldon?
Good evening, Michael Sheldon, 47 Floyd Street. This same project essentially was presented and approved by the board in the closing months of last year. So my first question is, in 100 words or less, can you succinctly tell us what has changed between then and now? It seems like the same number of units are involved, the same number of parking spaces, the same proposed retail, a restaurant on the corner of William and Washington. So I'm just curious, I'm not having access to all of the paperwork that you do. What is fundamentally different between, I think you heard this in November and proved it.
Right, that was the redevelopment plan, right? And preliminary. This is just the final approval with all the particulars.
All right. So this is the approval of the final site.
Final,
Right. So nothing fundamentally has changed since last November to
Same
now.
unit, same size, everything's the same.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. I had a question about the outdoor seating for the restaurant. Is that going to be all along Washington Avenue?
You can see,
Yeah, it's on the,
right, starts at the.
no, the outdoor seating.
The outdoor seating for the restaurant on
Right
the corner
here,
of William and
okay,
Washington?
the restaurant, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's all on Washington, all right.
Correct.
I just wanted to make sure, because if you said William Street, I was
No, that
trying to figure out how
slopes
you're going
down.
to fix the Naples
Correct, it
because of
slopes down.
the grade there. All right, thank you for that. Lastly, the parking for the restaurant. I know Belleville doesn't require restaurants to provide additional parking, so is the patrons for this restaurant, if it's dine-in, if there's indoor seating, people will be parking on Washington Avenue to utilize the restaurant?
That's correct.
There won't be any indoor parking provided for patrons of the restaurant?
That is correct.
All right. So if there's outdoor street parking for patrons of the restaurant, won't that further compromise deliveries? There was some discussion a moment ago about having a dedicated loading zone, even time restricted, but won't that offset, make it more difficult for people wishing to dine at this restaurant to find parking in the area? It seems you're going to have a lot of competition for very, very few parking spaces in that area of Washington Avenue.
So I believe the desire would be to have a limited time restricted loading zone. So it would be pre-hours before the restaurant or post-hours of the restaurant, not necessarily during the height of the restaurant's operation.
All right, so it'll be early morning before the restaurant.
That would make the most sense.
Is that something that the planning board would build into as a condition when deliveries are made?
I think that's something they can work out.
I would suggest that's the.
Because presently now, I mean, you walk up and down Washington Avenue, the restaurants, who has a loading zone? I don't think any of them do.
Well, no.
Rochester, Columbia does not.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say one thing,
Does not.
not being a proponent of the state's plan on Washington Avenue, this is the reason why. They're looking to add bicycle lanes and take up a third of the road with useless space when you don't have loading zones up and down the street. So I'm not a big proponent. I happened to miss that meeting, but I drive around and I see some of the state's projects with these bike lanes, and it all looks beautiful. But there's nowhere to unload a truck, there's nowhere to unload your furniture to move into an apartment, and now there's gonna be a bicycle lane there. So good luck.
And thank you, Mr. Conti, that's where I was leading.
Yeah, it's all poor planning, in my opinion.
The state's intervention on Washington Avenue is supposed to happen just in 2 years from now, 2022.
Right.
Are people working with the state to, to properly coordinate all this? Because based on what I've seen and what I understand what the state's intentions, they're going to make Washington Avenue essentially 2 lanes.
Right.
2 lanes.
Buses
It's bad enough right now,
They're gonna make it.
we lose essentially 2 lanes for bicycle, traffic, etc. Washington Avenue is going to be at a standstill.
It's not for bicycle. The bicycle lanes are just using up extra space. It's to make the whole drive down there safer for pedestrians. There's still going to be a middle lane, so it's going to be a middle left-hand turn lane. So when people make left-hand turns, instead of backing up all the traffic in the one lane, they're going to pull out of that lane, and it's going to keep it going down. The whole idea is to calm traffic and to make it less prone for accidents to happen. Like somebody recently just got killed.
Growing up in the city of Newark and living in Belleville now for more than half my life, quick deliveries double park, and we go around. Once they double park, there's nowhere to go anymore.
Like Prospect.
You only have one
But
lane.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I agree, but it's not only on the main streets, it's on side streets, right? You have your Amazons, you have your Uber Eats, they just come and park and in and out they go.
Right.
I mean, it happened today in front of my house. That tow truck came and said, no one's getting by, make a U-turn,
This
go
might
around.
be true, but we're planning a building on a street that the state, and it may look beautiful on paper, is looking to narrow. I was down in Newark today on Muhammad Ali Boulevard, and there's gotta be 8 feet on each side of that road. Are
Nobody rides a
painted
bike.
green,
Yeah.
there's more stripes in the road, you don't even know where to go. Every parking space is boxed out with an hash cross tag, and the street's going to waste. There's one lane, everybody's sitting in traffic trying to go down.
I've never seen
And so
someone
now
on
we're
the
gonna
bike.
add, we don't have parking, we don't have loading and unloading zones. I wish the state would reconsider what they
Oh,
want.
we're here on this one, right?
No, it's coming.
I know, but we're here
It'll
on
all
this
come
one.
together.
I'm with you.
It'll all come together, it'll happen
To
simultaneously.
that point, right, so the building does go down Williams, and after the driveway enters on Williams, there's another 22 feet. I mean, that could be a loading zone right next to the driveway.
Keep in mind, that corner's gonna have a bump out too, so.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you would,
Right,
you'd
that's
be,
a spot to put.
you would be about 100 feet, 150 feet off of a busy road, Washington, more on a side street, and that may be an ideal place for, 22 feet would fit a small box truck that would do deliveries, move in, move out, you can
I
limit the
think
time.
the way the road exists now would be fine. I think that's gonna be a problem when the
Right,
state changes it.
but knowing that, I
Yeah.
think, the best spot for a loading zone may be on that Williams Street.
You only see the front.
Yeah, it doesn't interfere with commercial, right? Because now the retailer gets mad because there's a loan bill and I can't come in and get something, it's off the beaten path a little bit. So that's,
Especially that many units too, you're gonna have people moving in and moving out.
well, you get an assigned space, so you can use your space to move in and move out to some degree.
I just hope that with all of the proposed redevelopment along Washington Avenue, you've got several very large, multi-unit apartment buildings ready to go, that when you listen to these traffic analyses and traffic studies, that you're not looking at the here, but if you compel the traffic engineers to examine what's likely to happen 2 and 3 years from now, when the entire streetscape of Washington Avenue is radically changed for the next 100 years. I fear, based on what's happened in other communities that have had a similar proposed streetscape, that Washington Avenue is going to become a nightmare. People will not be able to get from one end to the other within an hour.
Commissioners, do we have anything to say about it, or is
We have very little to say, but it's not accurate to say it's going to 2 lanes. That's not accurate at all.
It's 3 lanes, there's going to be a middle,
You said two,
two lanes and a middle lane for
And,
turns.
We have very little to say. I'm not a proponent at all. It's a horrible idea. I don't like them.
It's, unfortunately, it's something that I think is gonna come whether we want it or we don't.
All right, well, you are the planning board, and I guess, you're not only planning for today, but you are supposed to also look into that crystal ball and envision how Belleville's going to look 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So please try to be cognizant of
So should we
the
not
impact.
approve anything and wait?
No, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that you have to be extra mindful of the impact that this building, you've got another one from the motorcycle mall with almost as many units. I know there are other things in the works on Washington Avenue. The totality of this, the cumulative effect of putting all these extra vehicles on Washington Avenue, with Washington Avenue narrowing in the next 2 years, this could be a potential disaster. All of our intentions to modernize, to rejuvenate Washington Avenue could go by the wayside if all of this isn't properly coordinated. I'm just asking you to please make sure when you listen to traffic studies, that these traffic engineers are also anticipating what's going to happen to Washington Avenue starting in 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have something you want to say?
I'm okay, it got resolved.
You sure? Mr. Frantantoni?
She's gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that because since the state come in the past year and gave us this 1 lane and the bicycle lane and all that, I've been taking pictures. Number one, I know for 48 years my laundromat, the restaurant next door gets box truck deliveries. He can't always, but when he does double park, he's there for half hour, 45 minutes unloaded, traffic, the horns are blowing. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, one of my customers couldn't get out. She's done with her laundry, and the truck is barking. He said, oh, wait, we just got to unload the rest of the thing. She sat there for another 10, 15 minutes, all right? Since the state come in, I've been taking pictures of these trucks that park. Not only the truck, in fact, Walgreens, just last week, it's every couple of days, Walgreens, tractor trailer, double parks, blocks all the cars in, puts their big tailgate down, and then with their forklift, they're there for half hour, 45 minutes or more, unloading their trucks, all right? The adult daycare by the pool room up the street there, all day long. Their buses are double parked there. I've taken all these pictures. I got them all on my phone. I'll have to print them out and bring to you. But I've got dozens of pictures since they come in. We already have chaos on Washington Avenue. When we go down this 1 lane either direction with this phony left turn lane and all that, compounded with what they want to do to bump outs on the corner, which we're going to lose, I think they said, another 20, 25 parking spaces, you know, for the bump outs, which then creates another problem because the people to make a right turn have to go around them even further and conflict with them. It is now a serious problem. So you folks have to address it. You're building a new project here. You've got to insist, and you have the power to do it. He's got to have a dedicated loading zone there. I mean, we've done our projects in the past. I'm in town 52 years, been going to meetings for 50 years. We've done it in the past. We make them do the proper things. And then it's been compounded by previous administration to create a phony ordinance. I mean, I don't think any other town has it. Restaurants don't need no parking. When I talk to other people, what are you talking? A restaurant don't need no parking.
I think it's a good,
you know?
I'll tell you the truth. it's a good idea, not requiring.
Ask any restaurant to
It's there, but it has to be addressed at this planning board. You gotta make, and then, when you do make a loading zone, it brings up another problem. We're gonna lose all this parking space on Washington Avenue. But
The proposal was to make the loading zone in Williams.
We don't have, once we
Well,
draw the people, then.
in all due respect, you're not gonna make a loading zone on William Street because it's a steep incline. So a guy with a tractor trailer delivering is not gonna park on this incline. Number one, where's your driveway gonna be to enter the parking lot?
What is being delivered? One on Williams, but this is.
On William Street. So they're gonna block the driveway to enter the building? You know, this is a serious
How about
problem.
Mr. Di Lorenzo? Is that something you think you can work out with the, Yeah. Frank, is that something you think you can work out with them to create a zoning zone that would, loading zone that would work to down and P traffic, and then, like they said, maybe on William Street, we could designate something?
Why don't we just give an Washington Avenue upon the council's approval? Why would the council disapprove? Give us, let's create a
It's
spot.
interesting that you want to dedicate loading zone, that's gonna take away off-street parking too.
No, listen, you can't have everything, and an empty lot certainly isn't,
No, you folks are called the planning board for a reason. You're the ones supposed to do the planning, not the council.
They don't make street zones.
You know, so
yeah, we
this,
can't dedicate a spot on
look,
Washington Street.
you designate areas for waste, right? You designate areas for handicap parking space. You can designate dedicated loading zone. This is a serious problem, and not only for the restaurant and the deliveries, like the
I
engineer.
think it works though, Mr.
Who said that?
I don't think any of these restaurants have a loading zone now, and it works. I mean, it's not the best, but it does work.
It's not only for the restaurant. You got 158 units, all these people, you see what's happening, malls are closing down, everybody's ordering online. You got all
I
these
think it works.
Amazon
My
trucks
street,
and
is a
FedEx trucks.
There's a one-lane street,
right?
and there's a 50 deliveries a day, it works. It works. Amazon, the deliveries, it works.
But not when we go down, if the state does their plan. So the reason you're a planning board, you've got to coordinate, and let me tell you that, it's not cut and dry to stand. The Army Corps of Engineers is a big entity, and the US government, all the congressmen proposed and passed the Passaic River flood tunnel. We fought them. I took 2 bus loads to Trenton. I took a bus load of 50 people to Washington, the Natural Resource Group. We defeated the Army Corps of Engineers. The flood tunnel wasn't built. So when you say the state has every right, no. You, or elected officials of the planning board, have the duty, like I called, I forget her name, the lady gave the presentation, I called her 3 times already, complaining about this. You gotta complain, oh yeah, well, we're still getting input. So it's not cut and dry yet. If one citizen can influence her and she's saying we're still obtaining input on this, you gotta open your mind. You, Mr. Mayor, you love, you know, your bullhorn, go with the state. We're not gonna have this on Washington Avenue. I open my laundry 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. The right turn to go over the bridge, you know, coming south and west, is backed up to the middle school. The minute the green arrow, right, people are blowing their horns. And all they have to do is over the bridge, and we're backed up for a half hour on Washington Avenue. With 2 lanes now, and the 2 lanes, the other people go on the inside lane and get past. We go with the state plan.
A little bit more familiar with the state
We're in
plan.
big
Do you
trouble.
think it would improve the traffic flow on Washington Avenue?
I think it'll be fine. I think it improves it sometimes.
It actually, it's a lot safer. All the accidents that happen statistically happen when there's 2 lanes going the same direction. Somebody in front of you, if you're in the leftmost lane, stops to make a left-hand turn. You're behind them, you jet out into the other lane, that's the
Yeah.
accident. Now you have a dedicated turning lane to turn, that doesn't happen. It actually slows down the traffic also. So
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big proponent of it at first, but the more
still not.
experts you talk to, the experts agree that it's safer.
Go talk to the merchants on Prospect Avenue, what they did in North, and nobody uses
Listen,
that.
I was on
phony-
Mount Prospect Avenue today, and
What?
I grew up in North, close to Mount Prospect, and I was there today. A portion of Mount Prospect Avenue had diagonal parking. It was done about 15, 20 years ago, it worked beautifully. Then the next half mile coming north towards Belleville, they put the bicycle lane up against the curb. They put the parking 8 feet out from the curb. And when the trucks stop at the hardware stores to unload, the street is a disaster.
No kidding.
And that's what they're proposing on Washington Avenue. I'm with Mr. Frank Antoni. I'll go down to Trenton with him because we could plan now, we could make a designated spot on Washington Avenue for a loading zone. I'm all for it. I'm all for building this building. boy, if the state comes in and does what they said, it's not gonna improve the street, it's not. Well, because people aren't gonna ride on Route 21,
If
they ride down Washington Avenue, that's a lot of traffic.
I hesitate to join in this fray. My suggestion would be, if you took the architect's plan and looked at a 101 sheet, there's a number of 68, and next to the number 68, you see 2 parking spaces. We have excess parking, more than the redevelopment plan requires. It may be that you would want to take those 2 and designate that for move-in for tenants use, and that eliminates a lot of that at the end of the month.
On A101?
A101, if you look at the top of the section, you see the number 68 in the circle.
Yep.
Above the 68, you see a little 2 in the circle.
Yep.
So my suggestion would be if we designate those 2 parking spaces as tenant move-in, move-out parking spaces, at least in that, package delivery for a small,
Small box trucks.
well, not a box truck, but, the FedEx van, or, someone's getting an Uber pickup, right, or something to that effect, like they become dedicated, flow, flexible spaces, which relieves some of that.
That's a better idea.
Relieves some of the concern regarding tenants moving in at least.
Somebody needs to educate me, what is the issue for us to create a loading zone, which I see in Montclair, on Washington Avenue? Why can't we dedicate a spot? And then the council votes on it.
You can, my understanding, council can correct me, is that the loading zone, the creation of a loading zone is the purview of the municipal council.
So we
So-
are going to make a
Department of
recommendation.
Department of Transportation.
That's the problem, it's NJOT,
Because it's the state.
because it's a state highway.
And
So
the
the council doesn't have sole jurisdiction over it.
Right. And the real challenge, quite frankly, is at this stage, I couldn't tell you what the tenant is, right? And every tenant's different, right? If it's depending on the restaurant, depending on what they serve, nowadays kitchens are very small and how food gets prepared. I couldn't tell you how intensive the loading zone would be. So I think that becomes a better issue to present to the council to say, hey, we have a tenant, the zoning officer would say, okay, that use seems to be a little intensive.
But there are other retail space in this building.
Yeah, but depending on what they are,
Everybody's gonna
It could
require
be-
some delivery.
Well, look, it could be a professional office, right? It could be a lawyer's office, it could be a real estate office, and then you want the tenants, right? And no retailer wants a prime space in front of their property to be blocked so that you don't come to it, right? It's not in a retailer's interest to block their own spaces with loading, right?
2 spaces inside.
And somehow or another, New York City gets delivered every day.
Seems like we're a slave to the state.
Somehow or another,
Right.
like New York gets delivered every day.
And they're fighting, they want congestion price because everybody's complaining about they can't move in this. It was just on the news last night.
They
But
just need
should
money,
you
that's
sum
all
up,
it's about.
you people are planning, you do it, you create what you think you know, and then the state has final oversight. I believe they didn't have to get approval from the state because Washington
So
Avenue.
why can't we still go down
Wait,
that road? We
you're
make it a
planning.
condition, let the council do their due
I don't think
diligence and
it's a
send
good
it
idea
to the
to have a
state.
loading zone on Washington Avenue.
The
And the
reality
other
is,
thing
we're
is,
going
excuse
to
me, these are rental units. You got 158 people, there's gonna be a certain amount of people moving out every year.
I think
every
he
month.
had a good suggestion, that we could designate 2 spots as a loading and unloading zone for Amazon deliveries, people moving in and out. I think
Well,
they're gonna,
it's got to be a permanent, dedicated.
Yeah,
Inside the building.
he
Inside the
just
building.
suggested that, we'll make it a condition.
How's the tractor trailer gonna get?
Not a
inside the
tractor
building?
trailer.
We're not worried about tractor trailers.
Okay,
Nowadays, most deliveries are the little vans and things of that nature.
I hope we plan because a lot of these things have been approved in Belleville, haven't been built, and some of the things haven't been built because the banks won't loan on these poor projects.
Well,
So
I think it's a good
keep
point.
it in mind.
Anybody else? Mr. Doug Hershio?
Does anyone have a question for the engineer?
Yeah, Mr. Doug Hershio.
Okay, Jerry Dougherty, Way Grove Street. This originally came before the zoning board, and then things were changed, and it went before the planning board, and it's bigger area now, there's more properties involved, so that's why there's extra residents, et cetera. When it came before us, there was a designated area in the parking lot on the ground level for a dumpster. Is that still there?
There was a garbage area.
Yeah. So a truck is big enough, the entrance is big enough for a truck to go into the garage
No,
No?
no.
Then how do they pick up the dumpster?
You wheel it out to the garage, to the truck,
You're wheeling it out to the curb,
and then it gets picked up.
and that's how it's gonna get picked up?
That was-
So even the garbage is gonna be wheeled out, is what you're saying?
Correct, like other buildings, yes.
Because otherwise, it was gonna say you can bring a truck into the ground level of there, and usually a restaurant has a back door. Other businesses have back doors probably into the garage, and they can unload in the garage at a reasonable time when it wouldn't interfere with the tenants. The tenant's gonna work, and therefore would be available. That's all I'm saying. Are you able, since you're the architect, I believe?
He's the engineer.
Engineer, all right, even the engineer. Are you able to raise the height of the garage entrance high enough on the ground level so a truck can go into the garage?
That'll be up to the,
I just asked if you're available to do it, if it's able to be done.
I think if you throw enough money at anything.
I didn't say about money, I just said about architecture.
You can always raise the height of it for a building.
So a truck could go into the garage, and, because we only deal with straight jobs. We're not dealing with tractor trailers, this is a straight job.
You wouldn't be able to get a truck that big around.
I don't think I'm making
You're never gonna get the drive
There's
aisle.
not enough room in the garage?
For the drive aisles and the columns to support the building, it's never gonna work.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Just a couple quick follow-up questions. You said that the dumpster is going to be moved to the curbside.
Correct.
Right. You've got 158 units in this building, probably realistically upwards of 300 people living in. Now, just do a quick back-of-the-envelope calculation. Person produces 4 or 5 pounds of garbage, at least for each garbage pickup. You've got nearly 300 people living in this building. You're looking at upwards of a ton of garbage each time there's a pickup. How do you wheel a dumpster that has nearly 2,000 pounds to curbside? Are you going to get John Cena or Mr. Schwarzenegger to make visits to Belleville to pull that dumpster out to the curbside?
I'm sure maybe they do more than one dumpster. I'm sure it's something like the garbage.
We would have to comply, with
Is
the
this a single dumpster that's going to be used, or multiple?
I would think more than one.
We have not engaged or retained the garbage contractor that will service the building. What we did do was design an area where the garbage can be safely and within the health requirements stored, so that, people can live there, and the garbage area will contain that garbage, and then it will be picked up. And we will comply with all the city requirements as to
That's
what's
well
required.
good, just logistically, I don't see how
I'm sure it's something that
single
refuge company.
dumpster could be wheeled by a...
It's not a single dumpster, sir, and this is not the only 158-unit building that exists in the state of New Jersey. So there are contractors and designs that handle garbage.
Well, I'm sure Mr. DeLorean and Mr. Harris will make sure that the proper things are done.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I have one last question. You mentioned a moment ago that you might give up 2 parking spaces inside for deliveries, for moving. If I remember correctly, when this was first presented to you last November, the parking area was going to be gated to help improve building security and access.
For this project?
Yes.
Yeah, for the other project.
There's no gate, there's no gate here?
Correct.
All right. Can I stand correct? I thought there was a gate here, because then my next question was going to be, if it was gated, then how would delivery trucks get inside if there was a requirement for some control guard? So there's no gate.
Just saying there's 2 garage doors.
There's garage doors.
There is the doors, and you need access to get inside the building.
And traditionally, your UPS driver is your same UPS driver, and you give them the access code to let them get in. And your FedEx driver is the same FedEx driver. And when a tenant's coming to move in, there would be somebody there to meet them, to make sure that they could get in and load and unload the vehicle.
All right, thank you for that. I'm not aware of the inner workings of FedEx and et cetera, if they're able to get through barriers automatically.
It works out, sir.
All right, well, I'll take your word for it.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public? If not, would you like to move on to your next witness?
Please, I can.
There you go.
Thank you. At this time, I call the architect.
Give one of those beer hats. Michelle, just give a hug.
You want me to go? I'm gonna eat the whole.
Yeah, you deserve
I like the first version.
Tell the truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God.
I do.
Your name, please?
Albert Arancibia. I'll spell it for you. Arencibia.
Thank you.
Chairman, I did mark this A2, is that, with your permission, if that's okay?
Yes.
So Albert, for the benefit of the board, can you tell them your educational background, what licenses you hold, and whether or not you've ever been qualified and accepted as an expert?
Sure. Yes, hi. Good evening, everybody. Yes, I attended Rutgers University undergraduate, where I got my urban planning degree. And then I went to California, UCLA, where I got my architecture degree. And I've been practicing for about 30 years. I've appeared before numerous boards in the state of New Jersey, New York, California.
We'll accept you as a witness.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Albert, can you just start off with,
Yes, I will tell you before, just an outside comment, because my partner's been working on the project quite a bit. We happen to be going on vacation today, so I inherited the meeting tonight. But I will tell you, I've been involved in the process of this whole development is working. I mean, between, your planner and all your input has been, I believe it's really created a synergy to create a really beautiful project that really fits nicely on the corner. Of course, it's been back and forth with everybody, but I think at the end of the day, what we have right now, I think you'll be very proud of what we have this place.
so in that regard, the planner for the borough has issued some reviews.
Okay, yes.
And I'd just like to go through that with you if I can.
Absolutely.
So, just straight out, the bulk standards for the building, right? So the building's setbacks, the height, the side yards, the bedroom counts, the required parking spaces, the required amount of commercial space, the number of units, the lot coverage, the ground floor retail. The plan that is presented is marked as A2, conforms to all of that,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
There's no variance or anything that is being sought at this time with this plan in regards to what is required under the redevelopment.
That's correct.
That's correct. With regards to the signs that are on the building, there are two types of signs, or three types of signs. There's a sign for the restaurant use and the commercial use,
Correct.
and then there's a sign for the building use. Those signs conform to the requirements under the redevelopment.
Correct.
There is a third sign that if you look at the rendering and you're pointing to the main entranceway, that are two banner signs for advertising purposes.
That is correct.
Right? They do not comply with the redevelopment.
That is correct.
That's correct, right. And it is our intention, not necessarily to get approval from this board, but to deal with your zoning officer. The purpose of those is either during construction or during the lease-up period to help rent the building and advertise the building. So even though they're on the rendering, they are not permanent signs.
Behind them is what?
Brick.
Brick.
It's not glass?
No, because those are the elevator
This
banks.
is the elevator on one side and the stairs on the opposite side, so you can't put windows on that side. So we have the two stanchions flanking the storefront, 4-story storefront glass are all going to be brick.
So, in the previous version that I have here, glass.
We have glass in the middle where the lobbies are, the elevator lobbies in between, the two stanchions.
The challenge was,
I have glass.
Are you talking about the same thing? Which ones have the glass?
This is glass.
Right,
in the middle.
the one-
This is solid and that.
Gotcha. See, Michael, these are solid, that's glass.
We'll be aware.
Okay.
I'm pointing out the version of the plans that I have, which has glass in the middle and then glass inside.
Yes, well, those glasses wouldn't go anyway. We could put spandrel glass there if you would like, but.
Joe, I have the.
Correct, and the challenge, Mayor, was that when we designed the building, and I'll ask the architect, structurally, that is where the staircase is.
Correct, and that's typically made out of block and so forth and so on,
So what was it in this plan then?
I don't think we fully designed, the lobby was further back and we moved it.
This was the sales pitch.
We moved it with,
This is what I bought into, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, that might have been an earlier version,
It
because
was.
you know, we had
That's the version I bought
different
into.
extensions of the building, kind of.
but I think we moved up, we
It
moved the
does say
other.
final on the top, by the way. Final Washington Avenue redevelopment plan.
I can't see it, Mayor.
In any case, there are two brick stanchions flanking all the,
Well, let me ask a question for your benefit, if I may, Mayor. If the board so requested, is it possible to put some other different material there that could represent?
sure, we could do some type of spandrel, it'll resemble glass, but it would not be transparent. That we could do.
Because, I mean, we don't intend, even if you get the okay for that temporary signage, once the building is leased up, we're not gonna have large telephone numbers on the side.
No, we would comply with your zoning office as the
So then
temporary.
we end up with a brick wall, 2 brick walls.
How wide are those areas?
But we could, we'll be able to detail the brick walls, so there'll be some type of pattern to the brick, so it's not just gonna be a solid brick wall. And we could actually work, you know, with your planner, if you would like to have something, we could actually do something that would be some embellishment, you know, detail, where there's some additional scoring of some type, we could do that, as far as dressing it up.
Is that the only area where there's brick?
No, the entire base of the building in between, it's all brick. In between all the storefronts, all the glass is basically brick in between. We wanted a nice hardy, you know, material on the ground floor, very durable, so that's what we decided to go with.
I mean, the fact that it is brick, I mean, it was glass before, and that was dramatic, and it's something everybody did like. And then brick here now will match the bottom. Maybe there's other places that you could look at accenting with glass as we talk about this, but there are, it's important for us, and it was raised because we couldn't even see what was being proposed back there at this point in time. And obviously it's a preference of the board, but it's, as far as the design of the building goes, there doesn't seem to be, I think I specifically asked, there's no spandrel anywhere else. So inserting spandrel in as the main feature may not, depending on the architectural design, work. But it would be dramatic to have more glazing for sure. So that's something that you almost have to identify for the board the pros and cons of, or we can work out afterwards. But keeping with the design character of the building is probably very important, and probably more important for this building than introducing a new material. So it's you know, the brick could work if it's done in a way that accents the building in a positive way.
And we definitely work together and come up with some type of solution that'll be satisfactory to the town. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things you can do with brick patterns and so forth and so on. It's like a real.
I don't hear anybody talking about the brick.
No, not patterns, no. I think the only way that would work is if that carries through the character of the brick at the base and makes it consistent with the rest of the building. Introducing something new is probably not, you know, not what we're going to do, but we could work it out.
But if I may, Mary, there are ways though that architecturally you can break that up and make it more dramatic, correct?
Yes, I mean, the glass is the preference, I think that was made clear. There's also ways that you can use other materials to do it. My recommendation for you as an architect to explore is to make whatever you're going to propose to do there is consistent with the rest of the facade and not something entirely new, because that might look kind of odd.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we have those, because basically those stanchions come down to the floor, and that same brick material basically is picked up in some of the other building columns that we need in order to support the building. So that brick does tie in with the base of the building and the columns that we have there. So of course, the massing is a little bit larger, but we can, again, I think we can work many different materials we could do there. We can tie together, like I think a spandrel would work as well too. And, you know, detail, we can almost recess a little section of the brick and kind of just break a pattern there to do that.
If this spandrel would work, it sounds like that's what might be preferred by the board.
And can you just explain what spandrel is?
Spandrel is like your glass you can't see through, but it's a glass nonetheless, you know, so it's reflective, and you can do different colors and so forth and so on. So if we do something like that, then we can possibly pick up some spandrel. If we're going to do that there, might want to pick up some spandrel above the upper glazed section of some of these storefronts below, and kind of sort of tie it together with the rest of the building as well too. So that might be a way to work it together.
So there is a way to at least get the feel of glass by putting spandrels in there and then tying that. And I would suggest that.
The idea of tying on top of the retail glass would be
Correct. And you can colorize it and things of that nature.
We can even put it on the corner of the south tower, that's now the south corner.
Correct. There's some room.
That needs some light.
No,
South.
on the Williams,
on the other side, right?
In the version of the plan that I bought into, that was really a nice corner there.
on the backside.
Now it doesn't have a roof on it anymore, it doesn't have.
Oh, the architectural area.
Yeah, why do we remove the balconies from that end of the building? And the canopy?
Balcony's gone, canopy's gone.
Well, I think one of the important things you gotta constantly balance, basically the corner where the restaurant's gonna be, that's gonna be like a really wow factor. We actually step back, those 2 units above that restaurant actually goes out basically in line with the rest of the building, and then it kicks back in order to create a more three-dimensional look. So there's a lot of like movement in the whole corner of the building. And we have this floating canopy above that anchors the top of that, as well as a floating canopy that anchors the entrance of the building. So since it's commercial heavy, this kind of almost shows you where to come into the building for the commercial aspect of it, and this shows you where to come to the building for the residential.
I agree with you, but when you're coming into Belleville from Newark, we really like the project and think it's a gateway project.
Right.
And I think losing that canopy on that south corner, and then I've read that now there's siding there, vinyl siding, I mean, it's.
Not there. We'll get.
We could put the other canopy in that corner as well too, and then maybe play with some type of like the detailing that we have on this corner also in that back corner.
That would look good.
It's a gateway project, and that's, I've left North, I'm now in Belleville, and I think when you're coming north on Washington Avenue, you're gonna ideally see that corner.
Absolutely.
And I get it, you don't wanna upstage the main corner. This was even also open at one point. I mean, these two
Correct.
were also
Correct.
open on prior version.
I think this is more dramatic when you do something like this. I think it's more interesting as far as that's concerned.
But yeah, I think glass.
So to recap, if I may, just to get some testimony here. So Albert, we're able to put spandrel in that's the main lobby entrance.
Correct.
So we can work with the architect and the planner for the city with regards to putting spandrel and tying up spandrel into the rest of the building.
I try the council to bring the spandrel there and also to integrate it. I don't want to just do it here. We should kind of bring it into the rest of the building so it kind of ties together, so it's harmonious to the building.
And to the mayor's point, the south side corner, we can put either a smaller version of that canopy over there.
Just needs a lid on it. It can be smaller version.
Yeah, just to differentiate, but that's possible to also accommodate.
Absolutely.
So both of those accommodations can easily be made.
And no vinyl siding.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, where's the vinyl?
I didn't get there yet.
Get the vinyl side.
Yes,
They're waiting for us to get tired. and
Don't ruin it. Can you let me get through the good stuff?
They're waiting for us to get tired.
You just woke up Mr. D'Antoni again.
So we recap that, and then you're gonna deal with the municipality as far as whether or not signage is okay there and all that.
It's only temporary signage. I didn't want anyone to look at it and say, oh my God, that's gonna be there forever. So the only signage that is staying that's on this plan is, there's a detail sheet towards the end of restaurant signage and residential signage and things of that nature that comply with your redevelopment plan. Any other temporary banners or advertisement, we would have to make an application with your zoning officer to work with them as to what we would need to do to get a sign, temporary sign package out.
6 feet wide by 42 feet.
I noticed the Parkway Lofts, if you're coming Parkway North, before you get off 148, they put those beautiful apartments. They've had the temporary sign up, I think it's about 3 years now.
Correct, but that's why.
Giant, I mean, they gotta be 20 feet letters, and
But what
it
we.
takes away from the building.
Yeah, it does. And the proposal is at some point in time, the building will look finished but not be finished, right? No one will be able to move in. There'll be a 3-month lag while you're doing other things, so that's not a bad time to advertise
Right.
it. And-
Just as long as it turns into
And,
use.
you know, we don't want to take away from the building, right? You know, especially now the mayor's made us put, you know, a little bit more effort in the front, which we appreciate in the back. It's just, we just showed it and highlighted this, you know.
Give them a time frame on that, right?
Yeah, and I did that to your zoning officer to say it's gotta come down, you know, 3 months or whatever, yeah.
That's it.
You know,
I could rent it for a good board.
unless you want to tell me now, I get 3 months, you know. After CO, after the first CO, it stays for 3 months.
Where's the vinyl sign?
6 months?
6 months from the first CO?
6 months, it's fair. I mean, you
That's
need
enough
time,
time?
you get 150 units, you gotta rent.
Yeah.
We want the rent.
6 months is good?
Yeah, from the
All
issuance.
right, let's say 6 months from the first
From
year.
the issuance of either temporary CO or.
Option, if you need a little more time, an option there.
We will always come back and inform you. We will. But then you can say no, right? That's why the option is fine.
Okay.
So, moving on, the parking and the requirements for the parking, the number of spaces are appropriate for underneath the redevelopment plan?
Yes, actually, we have a little bit more.
Correct, and by a little bit more, if we took 2 of those spaces that we talked about before,
We still
on
have,
the main level and designate them, the ones that are here in the lobby, we'd still need parking in the park.
correct, we still have more, yes.
And you can make that revision on the plan and submit that.
Yes,
To dedicate.
yes,
And it is the intention that all the parking be assigned, correct?
that's correct.
And you've heard the engineer testify that if we made those 6 or 3 spaces compact, we would then achieve the 24-foot turning width that we require.
That's correct.
The bedroom mix is in accordance with the plan, is that correct?
That's correct, yep.
Okay. And there is some building amenities, right, with regard to the building?
Yes,
Can you explain what those amenities are?
yes. Go through.
So there's an outdoor courtyard, is that correct, Al?
There is nothing, yes.
And there is a lounge area?
On sheet A102, you can basically see where we have off the elevator lobby. That's where you have the double loaded corridor, so you have access apartments on both sides. But as you come off the elevator lobby, you basically have a large amenity lounge area that overlooks with glass through to the west. And what you see here, basically have amenity lounge, basically about 1,600 square feet, exterior terrace, so we have exterior terrace right off of that. And we also have like a walkway exterior terrace throughout, and because of the fact of the square footage that we have there, we need a second means of egress, so we're actually able to egress through into the residential portion along the William Street. But basically, the terrace is going to be used for sitting, lounging. There's not going to be any cooking or anything like that out there, so it's going to be basically just for the people in the building to be able to just get some fresh air, relax, read a paper, whatever it is. The amenity lounge within, we're proposing having pool tables, or some other seating areas also. I would like to mention, we also have a fitness center adjacent to the amenity lounge area as well. And one of the things we did in the previous application of this one, we added a small half a bath in that area so that people are in the floor, they don't have to go up to their apartments, they have to go to the bathroom, so we just added that. We thought that was a good plus to the actual use of the building.
And that all complies with the requirements of redevelopment plan with regards to open space or.
That's correct, square footages and everything, yes.
With regards to the sidewalk and the decorative nature, I know the planner made some comments that there needs to be a buffer of 3 feet. We will comply with that, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. As a matter of fact, on the way here, I noticed that what our civil engineer put on the drawings basically sort of matches what is right now on the streetscape. Not that we have to match that, we can definitely do something different, but what he shows it is basically something like that.
And depending on whatever the requirements are that the Washington Avenue project may be, we will comply with that with regards to the sidewalk. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Courtyard. So with regards to the commercial layout, if you can go to the ground floor.
Basically what we have is we have the corner of the restaurant that has actually 2 levels in order to meet the grade of the sidewalk. Because actually, you know, the street kind of pitches quite a bit, so there's a change in elevation to the restaurant. So you have the restaurant entering the corner on Williamson, Washington Street. And beyond that, you'll see that on the sheet A101, we show the rest of the restaurant area, which is a couple steps up, and that's in order to meet the grade of the street there as well. So there's access, there's ADA access, of course, into the building from all the parking on the ground floor. And we're able to get into the mailroom there, that goes straight into the residential portion of the building. So you can go out to the street and then go back into the restaurant and back into the other commercial spaces. I know that we talked previously about...
Just for a second, so the plan requires that that corner be designated as a restaurant, and we have designed it as such.
Absolutely.
And we took, to make sure there's ventilation, shafts and things of that nature to accommodate a kitchen or any other needs of that.
That's correct. We do show, we added a shaft in our drawings, on these revised set of drawings, that's marked A2, and it shows there where we have the shaft going up through the building.
And that satisfies one of the comments made by the plan, correct?
Correct.
And this plan on this sheet, this is A101.
Correct.
It just shows 2 different ways of possibility of retail laid out, is that correct?
That is correct. One of the conversations before was like, if we needed more space for this retail space here, we can kind of take these spots out over here and put them in this location over there, and then you still have more than enough spots.
So you could lose 6 spaces while still maintaining those 2 that we dedicated. It would allow that extra retail to have some flexibility, but it would still comply with the requirement of parking.
So you have a 22'6" driveway.
No, 24.
No, it'd still be 24.
It says 22'6" on your plan.
I think that was just, we oversized the retail.
So we're going to, in any case, we talked about also, we had to, to make them compact, so.
It's just, what we're really looking for is a little flexibility to accommodate, if we get a good tenant or good retail who needs that extra 75 square feet for something, it would be a shame to lose somebody and trade it off the park.
And not for anything, but 22-foot backup aisles are standard in a lot of residential buildings for the people who have assigned spots, because they're aware of their spots, they know how to get in and out of their spots. So that is a standard, however, we will be still going to 24 by just making the size a little small. So it's 18 feet deep, we'll make it 16 and a half. Take care of that.
I would just comment that you have a 2,600 square foot storefront and a 1,950 square foot storefront. And I say, great if you could rent them, but to enlarge them and lose 6 spots seems a little counterproductive, because like you were saying before, maybe you would have a professional space there with limited people. When you start getting to 2,000+ square feet, you're talking about more employees, more customers,
But the same
more
frustration,
loading and unloading.
the same frustration you have, I have. you're just trying to
Not living yourself.
you have a little flexibility and still accommodate, where you want.
Somebody may want a smaller store.
Correct, and you might pick up 3 more spaces, right? I mean, and that's really what I'm just asking for is, I don't think it's much, but I think it's.
Yeah, I see a lot of buildings, and I drive around, especially in the city. There's a lot of multi-use buildings built, and there's a lot of empty storefronts.
Right.
A lot of empty storefronts.
So you need that flexibility to accommodate someone, and that's really the purpose of it, is not to take away from parking or do something, it's really to, I mean, the desire, the way this has been built from the beginning, is to make Washington Avenue attractive, activating. Nothing doesn't activate like an empty store, right? I mean, so, you know, making the building look better, you know, putting people in it that will use that amenity, you know, is all the desire. And that's why there's 2 different options here. That's why I just ask if we can, give us that flexibility. But we still maintain those 2 spaces as well, because I do think that's important.
That's an option, I agree that I don't think they're gonna need that blue space.
I'm gonna gamble and use smaller spaces.
So Albert, the planners review spent a lot of time on the design.
Correct.
And some of the things, as a result of her letters, we did make those revisions, and that's why we submitted some new plans.
Correct.
So can we go over some of those revisions, just to highlight them? So can you go to windows first?
Okay.
So there were 2 issues raised by the planner with regards to the windows. One was how we handle the P-TEC system, which is the air conditioning unit and heat unit for the units.
Yes, and to tell you the truth, we're very happy to comply with the planner's requirement, request, because the fact that, as we've all seen a lot of buildings where they have these P-TEC units under the windows, and they just have this plastic cover underneath, and you have leakage all the time and so forth and so on. So we do not want that look at all here. This is going to be an elegant building. This is going to be a clean, modern building. So what we're actually proposing here, we actually have a company we've been talking to about doing an integrated window and also a grill, one piece, so everything is fit together. You put it in place here, there's no leaks, there's no seals at all. So basically everything, the P-TEC will be mounted from the back, and it'll look like this one continuous grill from the outside. So at that, in one respect, that's going to be a beautiful finish for the building.
So what page is that in the?
All your things say page 2, just so you know.
Everything says page 2. You got 9 page 2.
Page should be 201.
Yes,
201.
I'm putting on whatever I can hear, because 10 people are talking at once. You're right next to me, so most of them are making.
Page 201, we actually did a blow-off of what this window looks like.
So that grill is a metal grill.
Correct.
Right, and that also provides an additional architectural feature for the front and back of the building.
That is correct. All the windows will have this.
And it'll be the same color.
Yes, everything's going to be all black, it'll be integral black.
Unlike that, you know, Hampton Inn or that, the hotel where you see that grill, you know, that doesn't match, that's not what we're.
Not at all, not at all.
Now, the other issue was, the planner talked about some depth of the window, right? So can you recess a window to give it a little bit more architectural feature?
Well, what
Can you
we're doing
explain
is,
when and where we can do that?
what we do, we're going to, of course, that's going to be happening where we have brick when the windows are located. That's what's going to be the standard detail. However, where we have the cement board panels and the siding panels, what happens is all of these windows, they come in with a pre-manufactured flange on the building, on the edges of themselves. They actually get secured to the outside of the building. So in order for the safeness as far as like leakage and to prevent any type of water infiltration into the building, we would like to maintain that system intact, because once you start adding onto that system, you open yourself up to some possible leaks. And one of the things we do not want to have is leaks. So whereas we will comply with it when the brick becomes the material of choice, I mean, when it comes to just the cement board and the cement board siding, you know, we feel that just the that one little, like 1-inch relief that you have should be enough, and at least we'll be safe as far as not having no water infiltration in the building.
So, I know there was a percentage of glazing required if you turn to the front of the building.
Yes.
With regards to there was a number put on of, to try to achieve a 75% glazing.
Correct. And
Could you explain why we've had difficulty reaching that number and to what extent?
Yes.
What we have done?
What we wanted to do is we wanted to anchor, we have columns throughout the building, as we know, we have to support this building, so.
So you're on sheet 8200.
8200, I apologize, yes. So what we did was in these areas, if you notice the elevation, you got it, I think. Thanks a lot. I just want to show on 8200, the elevation. You see these stanchions, these on both sides, these are columns that are coming down to the ground floor. So we really can't put any glazing where we have these columns.
But Howard, if we put the spandrel in with regards to those two columns, right?
Correct.
Is it anticipated that we will increase the amount of glazing that was required?
Yes, if we do that along the entrance, the thing is, because we have the depth to do that there, but we really can't do it in these locations, because these are basically almost columns clad with brick.
But so we can get close to that number, but a lot of that's just going to depend on structure of the building.
Correct. Right now, we're up to 55%, just so you know.
But if you added in those two columns, we'd probably be over 65%.
We have to calculate it, but yeah, we'll definitely gain. But however, though, I think it's really important to notice that if you look at the building elevation in front, there's a lot of glass here, a lot of glazing there. It's not as if it's like a small little windows everywhere. There's windows throughout the corner, windows in between all these areas, so there's a good degree of glazing in the building. Actually, to tell you the truth, we actually shocked that it was only 55%, because it looked to us that it was more than that, but in any case, that's what we have.
What about that vinyl siding?
So, just so you know, I was going to get to that, but I don't want to do it while there's an empty chair up there, because then I'll get accused
This might be
later.
the time to do it.
I know, but then I got to pay for it later. So, yeah, or in other ways. So, just
some
I
of the other
just want to
comments.
go to one good feature. Not that they're all good, but on the roof, right? We have proposed.
Proposing solar panels on the roof.
So we've added a solar panel component, or want to, see if we can accommodate that, and we look for that permission. And can you just tell us about how that would work and what we would do?
Sure. On sheet A106, you can basically see the layout of the solar panels here. So all of these are basically, of course, we have to have a railing along the perimeter for safety, if anybody has to get up on the roof there. We actually show on the sheet, we added a typical detail of a railing that basically sits on the actual roof, so you don't have to make any penetrations on it. So again, we're always worried about water infiltrating the building. So that's why we propose this detail that actually just sits on the roof itself. They're anchored together, by the time they're all anchored together, the weight enough, they're not going to go anywhere. So we've used this before on a number of projects before. But you can generate quite a bit of electricity on the roof to the size. So all that electrical will be used back for the building common elements, so it's going to help offset a lot of the energy costs for the actual running of the building. We also show a mechanical equipment screen. I know that your planner had asked us for that, so proposing having something very clean and decorative, basically just horizontal lines to conceal any equipment that would be on the roof. The way we see, we don't have any equipment you'll be able to see from the street at all, so only if you're flying above it, you'll be able to see it.
And with regards to, before I get to the anticipated siding, can we get to look at the corner in a little bit more detail?
The corner of the restaurant?
Well, the whole corner of the property. I know the planner had spent some time on the canopy and the corner and interior views? And is it our intention to work with the planner to make sure?
Yes. I believe one of the questions, I think, was about like lights that are not going to be in your face, not glare. Everything's going to be screened, so no light's going to be going directly into anybody's face. We show a little detail on A200, sort of what we're proposing having for that entrance. It's going to be an angled canopy, and you'll see there'll be lights put in between, and sort of like a wood grill detailing along the top of the canopy, the bottom of the canopy and stuff. So that's going to be nice because it's kind of that wood canopy there. We kind of tie in with the wood hardy plank we're proposing in the front, so the colors will be similar, and it also the same detail that we're going to have on the upper metal canopies on the corner and also above the entrance of the building itself. So it brings in a nice warmth color to the combination of materials that we have in the building.
And that material and color scheme and differential continues on the William Street north side of the building, is that correct?
That is correct. Correct. It continues along.
Yep, that's still on the same sheet.
Correct.
So with regards to the front of the building, the front facade, which is Washington Avenue,
Yeah.
and the north of the building, which is the Williams side, all of those materials
Are consistent.
they comply with requirements and the design standards that put forth in the development plan.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. So let's turn to the rear of the building. And
Do we have to?
Yes, we do. And the south side. So on the rear of the building,
A201.
we are proposing a different material, is that correct?
Correct.
Can you explain the materials that would be on the rear side of that?
Yes. What we have along the rear of the building, we're basically proposing having vinyl siding there. Two different colors of vinyl siding, basically to match the cement board siding that we have on the front. So the colors will be the same, however the material will be different. We have since made some changes to the rear elevation where we actually pushed in some areas of the building in order to create sort of like a shadow effect line, a little more interest. Before it was almost like one flat length, and now we actually...
So looking at that sheet, on the left-hand side, I see three circle, like cloud things.
Correct.
Right, that distinguishes about a foot depth in differential in the building, is that correct?
That is correct.
In or out? In?
In.
Yes.
And then that's also, there's one of those on the Williams side, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. There's also, is there any other architectural feature in that recess?
Yeah, well, what we did also, in order to create a little more interest to that too, as well, in those sections where we recessed in, we're also punching in the roof at those levels to kind of break the plane, so you won't have a break vertically and also horizontally in the spaces to create a more of attractive look. And we've pushed up the color of the wood-looking vinyl a little bit higher, and above that in those sections, we actually finished that off with fiber cement board panels. So we do have, material that transcends from the front, also the windows, the fiber cement panels. So the look is going to be very similar to what we have in the front, but the material is going to be.
Do you have samples of this material?
Yes, we do.
Show samples, head and board.
That's the rear?
No, the rear, no. Basically, the rear is going to be the same color siding as this and the other gray siding. So we don't have the vinyl siding colors, but it'll be exactly to match the same color that we have in the front. This is basically proposed brick that we have along the base. It's a nice, clean, modern brick. It has like a nice modern look to it. You see it has a little sheen to it. Oh, okay.
Any reason why you didn't bring the back samples?
We just ordered it, but we didn't get it in time. No, but it's the same, it will be the same colors as the gray and the wood color built front, but it will be vinyl. Because they have, really high-end vinyl stuff now, so it's not like it used to be in the old days.
So, and with that regard, though, the vinyl and the material gets broken up, though, with, in addition, you said there was some cement fiber board.
Correct, we have cement board panels as well, too, in order to kind of bring some of that material as well.
And the window system from the front is also
The
taken
same
on
as
the
the
back.
back,
So there is the black metal or gray metal, depending on the color of the window, that it will also, so there'll be, you know, for every window that is seen on that rear elevation, there is also a metal board component on that.
Absolutely, yes. All the windows are the same in the front and they are on the sides and the rear of the house.
And can you explain the material used where the white two vertical lines are on the rear elevation?
The white's going to be, basically be a ethos system. That's going to be like a really fine finish system, but it's going to be through a manufacturer, one of these like STO or Drive It, that basically is an entire system, a rated system at all. So there's going to be no issues as far as the installation because it's going to be done by the company that actually does the product. So.
And what is the exact windows going up and down in that?
This would be the center section here by the lounge area here, and in this tower area over here where we have that additional detail as well. So there's a lot of more interesting details that we have now that we've created as a result of the planner's letter. So we incorporate a lot of her comments, and we feel that we've kind of like, you know, gone the extra step to make this more attractive, and it'll still be tied together to the front of the building as well.
Tied by color.
Yes. So, just to orientate the site, though, so the rear of the building is adjacent to a warehouse.
Correct.
And below the warehouse is another warehouse,
Correct.
and then there's a train track,
Correct.
and then there are backyards to residents,
That's correct.
and then there's residents, and then there's Courtney Street.
Okay, that's beyond me. Yes.
And William Street, though, you know by the elevation, does slope down.
Correct, yes.
So from a visibility perspective, no one's walking back there or driving back there, or that is not necessarily a portion of the building that someone will be able to see up close and close. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's pretty much set back, so you really won't see, you have the other warehouse space here. So I know where we have basically a reinforced concrete here that's going to be colored, so it'll be a clean look, but it's not going to be any different, actually it's going to be a lot different than the warehouse next to it, but it's not going to be the brick detail that we have on the front of the building.
Can you just turn towards the south side of the building? That sheet, just for purposes.
Sheet A200.
So sheet A200 in the bottom right-hand corner, that is the finish for the south end.
That is correct.
Can you explain what is going on in that section?
Yes, well, what we have is basically we have the same exterior materials wrapping around the corner on the south side.
We're on sheet A200, and we're focused on the bottom right-hand corner, which is the south side of the building, which is next to the Popeyes and
Parking lot. So what we have here is basically...
Hold on, give me a second. So we agreed that we were gonna treat that roof corner differently.
Correct.
So we're gonna put a canopy similar to the canopies in the other two parts. So that will get added to that.
That's
right?
correct.
So that will be a new architectural feature to that.
Right.
All right, can you explain the material used in that area?
Yes, and all of that, basically, if you look at it, the front side, the Washington Street side is on the left-hand side of the elevation. So basically, all those materials are the same, carrying through up until when we get to that elevated structure that you have there. That's basically the stair tower, that we've actually changed materials, because before we had it made out of blocks, so we've changed it. We're going to do a frame out of it. And by doing that, now we're going to actually do the cement board again. So it's the same nice cement board panels that we have in the front of the building. It's wrapping around the side of the building as well. And the brick, of course, along the base is going to extend all the way to the end of that stair tower. Where we're going to be turning around the vinyl siding just along the back of the building, probably like 1/3 of the building along the back, up until when it hits the stair tower and when it hits against the brick. That'll be then the gray vinyl siding and the wood-looking vinyl siding. Again, the window details are going to be the same as the others.
You're going to fix it? I'm going to fix it. So is it possible, Albert, anticipating the looks of the board, so on the south side, we have the left side, the Washington side, and then the right side, which would be the backside.
Correct.
Is it possible to make both of those the same material as the front of the building?
Yes.
And remove the vinyl?
Yeah, it's possible.
I think that would be a desire of the board, right?
So you're saying the entire, from where the cement board is, on the left and right side of that?
Correct. So
Both sides?
Both sides of that structure, so the left side and the right side. Currently as depicted, the left side is the same quality materials in the front, the right side is the vinyl siding. But knowing that there's a parking lot there, that there's access, that, you know, residents or patrons or someone
always see it.
people would see it,
Always see it.
so.
If you're saying the left side is the same
It's
material as the
correct.
front?
Just a little side.
It's just the 1/3 of the back.
That's the right side.
That's the side.
What about that hunk in the middle? It says
I'm gonna get to that.
Wait, no,
Yeah, I'm starting to not understand this.
Side of the building near Popeye's parking lot, right?
Yeah,
Right.
so,
Out the back.
I'm looking at the left side elevation,
yes.
Yes.
page 200.
Correct.
So you have the gray middle there.
Correct.
Which is the fiber cement board. We changed that from what it was, precast concrete to this now.
So looking at it to the left, what,
That's the same.
It's the same material that's in the
Cement board.
front. So the cement boards, the hardy board, it'll be the same material from the front.
What's the top? What's the gray?
Cement board.
Yes.
There's two different colors. There's gray and there's also that wood.
It's the horizontal vinyl side.
and then the right side was the vinyl side.
Correct.
And
So all you're proposing is to change the right side.
No, I'm figuring that you're gonna propose that I change the right side.
Okay, they're both in the same.
These are different.
They're different, they look the same, but they're different
They're
materials, yeah.
Correct.
It's just the same
They
material.
do look the same, that's why the back works.
So you're just changing that one little section on the right, or you're proposing to
My-
change one section on the right?
Understanding the board's desire.
Well, no, you have to understand is that nowhere in the zone do we even allow vinyl.
No, I
I don't
understand.
know why they would have designed something with materials that we don't allow anywhere.
I understand that, so I'm making a case for that as best as I can.
Okay.
So, but understanding that that's not necessarily a desire, and understanding that this south side does have people, and people who will see it, people will get out of their
It's the
car.
gateway. It's the gateway.
And you drive it, and there's a parking lot there that's open to the public. Understanding all that, we'll go back to my client and say, look, that side has to have the same quality as the front. And I think both sides, the left and the right, should have that quality.
Plus the roof canopy.
Plus the roof canopy.
You're proposing that in lieu of changing the rear too.
My argument with the rear or
Notice how
my,
we're off the rear now. We're over
my,
the side. That went really quick.
it was good though, I thought I just got there. Christian Conti's killing me. But the difference really is, you know, I measured it out on Google Map, right? So if you stood on Cortlandt Street, you know, it's 490 feet away. And 490 feet away, you can't tell fiber, cement, vinyl, you know, brick, right?
20 years.
But you do have an outdoor seating area back
You
there.
met.
So you have an outdoor seating area back there.
Correct.
So as you're sitting in there, and you're,
Very
and
nice building.
as you're figuring out how you're gonna pay your rent for your nice luxury building, and you're sitting in the backyard contemplating how I'm gonna pay the rent. on
Say,
my
my
luxury
rent would be
building,
so much more if this was brick bank.
I'm gonna look around and say, wow, I am paying for a luxury apartment, yet I'm surrounded by vinyl.
There's one project in town, in Fountain, and it was wood when they built it, and the wood started rotting, and they replaced it with vinyl siding. Every time I drive by it, I just shake my head and say, how did they allow this in this town?
And,
The old Fountain,
The old fountain.
in Soho.
and the difference,
It's all vinyl siding, the old fashioned, the board, it looks horrible, every time you drive by it.
and the difference is, every time you drive by this, you're not gonna see the vinyl, because it's on the backside.
Unless he's sitting out back.
But it's 5 stories high too, though, see, right?
It is.
No,
But it's
warehouses
still,
are probably 2.
warehouses are 2, the elevation, there's some natural growth in there, there's a bunch of trees along the.
Is there a compromised material?
Stucco.
Not quite the front, but a little upgrade from the vinyl.
Did you pick out a manufacturer yet, or a product for that?
We did not, we were gonna work with the planner and.
I mean, obviously, there's good vinyl.
And there, yeah, there's no roll of vinyls now, so some vinyl siding is really, really high grade too, so.
And with the push out and the bump outs, you don't get the long span of it. The windows are metal also, so there is, it's not as much as you think it is. But
What is the longevity on the fiber board?
Sorry?
What's the longevity on the fiber board?
Oh, it's about 30 years.
I'm
It's
saying
great.
longevity is vinyl, but I know there's a difference in cost, but.
Well, it just doesn't rot, doesn't warp, doesn't bend, it's
the wear.
mildew proof, it's a great
The
product.
fiber board, you get away with painting again. The
Right.
vinyl,
you gotta replace
you're
it.
ripping it off, yeah.
I have a question, and it's just, it kind of comes off the chairman's and some of the other board members' questions on other possible materials. Just wondering what others might be consistent or that you could consider. I'm thinking of on large buildings like this, sometimes you see almost like it sounds terrible to describe it like this, but it almost seems like a corrugated metal, but it actually is a very modern looking material, and it's typically on buildings of 5 and 6 stories as an accent. And I'm wondering if you considered that. I don't know whether or not that's something that is in the same category as this, as far as a consideration, but it's another thing to think about that
I was
might.
gonna say a metal panel, but I think now you're talking about another added.
That's
another
right.
cost.
And obviously, we're driven by cost, and I get that.
Well,
I get it.
we're-
It's the back of the building. and
We're
I
trying to
understand.
put as much attention and love and energy in the front of the building, where I think it belongs and where it's needed.
Yeah, it is a large.
I mean, I get the hesitation, and I understand it deeply.
Break it up a little bit, the four pieces that are recessed in, we do different material there.
Well, the gray part of the recess is a fiber board, so we can do the ground as a hardy board.
I think that's the interior part of the courtyard, is that what you're saying?
No, the four in the back, on 201, the four sections that are recessed in. We do something different with recess.
Well, the members have already been, or there, if you like.
It looks like a 2-layer cake.
Yeah.
It's just,
But we could do that, we could substitute that with the hardy in the bottom there. All those sections there would be like all hardy.
I mean, I would suggest maybe, you allow vinyl subject to, your planning development's approval on the design and Commissioner Bowe's point on the quality of the vinyl also, because it does come in different levels, right? So, that you still retain approval over the quality of that material, but allow that lesser grade, but to a higher quality.
can we say we're not gonna allow 100% vinyl in the back of the building?
You can say that.
We don't have that anywhere. We really don't have one.
No, it's not
We have 5% board panels above those recesses there.
The windows have metal grates underneath them.
We have stucco there as well. So we have stucco and we have the other panels as well. We brought in materials from the front, and the back, so it's tight all together.
Just do something that, break it up. Do something.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, where they sit, should they be staring at mine?
And one of the questions too, I guess, that also deals with the same issue of this quality of the vinyl is the size of it. For a building of this size, the dimension of each piece will matter. That's why I mentioned the corrugated, because that comes in sizes that are more associated with a larger building and
Correct.
scale.
All sides, vinyl has it too. Vinyl has like 8-inch sections, they even have 1 foot now that they've actually come up with, so they have larger sections of it.
But that, to your planner's point, it may be if you allowed 70% of the rear to be a lesser quality material, subject to her approval of the quality of that material.
What percent are we at now?
I just pulled that out.
We're already at 70%. I know you pulled it up, what I'm saying.
I just took a guess, figuring that was, I rolled the dice and see where it landed.
What I also am gonna ask another question, not to, well, it will complicate the discussion, but I think we should talk about it all at the same time. Since we're talking about the facade, is the the white stucco portion,
Correct.
the black frame. That comes up in the back,
Yeah.
but it's also an accent in the front.
Correct.
So, and it's an accent that I'm wondering if there's any other, in that particular spot, material or feature that you think of an accent instead of white with black frame, because that's really gonna stand out. It's probably the most, it's the most prominent component of the front, but it also is probably the least fancy material. So I'm just wondering if there's some thought into that, maybe white is not the color, just to think about that, if you could describe what the process was.
We thought white was a good color because of the fact that that's what you want. I think you want to have a nice crisp, white, black contrast, because we want, again, it's a modern building. We want to have that differentiation with those black windows and the white crispness of the surrounding, because this stucco we're going to have is going to be like a fine fissured finish. So when the time you look at it, it's going to look almost like almost concrete. That's what it's going to look like. So that's sort of the concept of what we're going for. Because that stucco comes in different variations as far as textures and so forth.
So it won't be white, it'll look like a concrete color.
It'll be correct. It's going to be solid white.
No, it's gonna be white.
It's gonna be white, but it's gonna have the texture, the feel of a
It's not gray, it's gonna be white.
It's fake stuff.
It's white stucco, it's ethos.
Correct. But there's, like I was saying, there's different finishes that they have. So this is
Right, they
the
have a fine
finest finish, which is like,
Can you clarify something for us, the outdoor seating area in the back?
okay.
Looking at it to the left, it looks like it's tucked in.
Tucked in here.
On the right, is it tucked in there, or is it exposed?
That section,
Is there walls on each side of that sitting area?
Correct, but you get a better view on 102.
No, here,
this over here.
it's not tucked in. It's not tucked in, it's just continuous.
What is, so there's a wall here and there's a wall here, right?
Correct.
What's on those walls?
That's tucked in. This is your white here that's tucked in here, and this is your decking on the bottom here.
The left side's tucked in, the right side's not.
But what's on the walls is what he's asking.
Well, on this section here, the wall is basically a combination of the vinyl, the two different colors of vinyl. Then in the middle section is sort of where we have all the door entrances here. That's where you have the white stucco, and then on the other side. So this is the same as that, the white thing.
This over here and over here.
This is the gym, so this comes out.
Yeah, what is that wall?
Is that
This is the wall, this is the wall.
What's the material?
This will be the same siding and wrapping around.
Okay.
Fine,
So
right?
I'm sorry,
The same
I can't
siding.
hear, I can't hear you at all, everybody's
All right,
talking.
I'll read you a quick question.
Yeah, the
So-
last couple questions.
So,
Yeah, I just need that for the record for her, so
So
I
for
can
the record,
restate all that.
when
One
you're
at a
sitting
time,
out there,
please.
when you're sitting out there, we're just concerned that you're surrounded by vinyl. So
So-
we're talking about using different materials. I get it, there's probably gonna be some vinyl back there, but not where you're, not in that area, I would say.
Sure. If I may, and I'll get some testimony to that fact, might be helpful. So Albert, there's a recess of the building where there's an outdoor courtyard.
Correct.
And currently as depicted on the plan, on the rear elevation, where that courtyard is, the material that's above it and vertical and that surrounds that courtyard, that is consistent of vinyl, the P-TEC frames. Is that correct?
Yeah. And also the ethos as well, so that's all three.
Correct, and there's the ethos, right? So with regards to the vinyl component, is it possible without ruining the integrity of the building, I believe is the board's question, to make where you are in the courtyard area, party board, which is the material used in the front, which is the quality material that is included in the plan, and the fiber board for the gray area, so that people who are close to that
Higher quality.
will see it.
And the recess area, correct, we could make that transition.
Correct.
And the thing is, it's just a matter of where we terminated on the outside corner of the back wall.
Correct, it's the transition point
Yeah.
that we'd have to
We're
work.
talking about the internal recess area there where you're gonna sit in the courtyard, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4 areas that are pushed back. Different materials there.
All the other areas too?
Yeah, well, the recesses, we would make that
Four
all fiberboard, all hardboard.
Okay.
And that still structurally would work.
Sitting out there,
Yeah.
you're concerned about vinyl.
didn't realize, I guess, I didn't look close enough, on the front, so wherever the white is around the windows is all white stucco on the front. On the front of it.
Yeah, thank you, that's why.
How do you feel
Correct.
about the maintenance
Yes.
of white stucco?
Excuse me?
How do you feel about the maintenance of white stucco in this environment?
Bus traffic.
How long is it gonna stay white?
For a long time, actually, because the thing is, what happens, when it gets really dirty is when you have a lot of texture to it, because then the dirt and everything catches on it. But the smoothness of this is gonna be so smooth that it's just gonna drip right off it, so. You know, whether it's gonna be clean, it's gonna have to be, it's like anything, you have to maintain it, so. But the finishes that we're proposing is gonna be much easier to maintain than it is if you have more texture.
I have to ask this too, we're gonna go back to it before,
Sure.
because I wanna make sure the board knows what they're getting.
Okay.
And just to be clear, the rendering does show that as tan blends in with the rest of the colors. And the rendering also shows the scoring of that white, what's the area now shown as white ibis, it shows it as a subtle scoring. And in the latest elevation, it's pure white with black lines matching where the windows go. Is that also black stucco?
No, it's
Is
not.
that frame?
That's gonna be, this is gonna be the reveal detailing, so just to, it shouldn't be so dark, I see what you're saying, but it
Yeah.
should be just, it's just gonna be a shadow line there because of how we do the combination.
Okay.
Because you wanna be able to match with the window, so you wanna make sure that the grills are detailed, so it looks like it's built into the whole area as well too, vertically and also horizontally as well too. So we do want the scoring in those locations, but it's not gonna be a different color.
It's not gonna be black.
Yeah.
And was there any consideration to following a more subtle earth tone color rather than just the white to fit in with the other colors in the building? Maybe like a tan that goes with the gray or, because the white does stand out a lot. And it's not the highest quality, not the most special decorative material on the front. Normally, the one that stands out the most is the best one. And so I'm basically questioning that for that reason.
I mean, again, I think the material, once you see it, you're gonna be amazed how the finish of it is. So it's gonna be very attractive.
You don't have a sample of that?
Of that finish, no, but I can definitely provide that to you, so it's not a problem.
But to that point, that material color can change.
Yes, it can.
Right, it doesn't have to be white. So the same material can have, different shades of white or cream or something out of that. Right?
And this is lathed on? Is that,
Sorry?
is this a lathe? It's a trowel?
No,
I like the
This is
contrast.
EFA system.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends.
Yeah, I like the contrast.
I mean, it
Well,
does.
I take Mary Ann's point. It's gonna pop more than anything. It may take away from the brick, which is of higher quality than the stucco.
I'm just pointing it out, I mean, it's up to you guys.
Well, it looks nice.
But now that we're talking about color, I'm in a happy place, right? So, because the material can be altered, right? So, architects being architects, right, they get married to a design, but developers wanting to build a building, don't. So we can work with your planner and your building department as to the final coloring of that. It's really the material that, at this point, we need to deal with. Right? Because even that brick, that color, you gotta get the brick to be that color.
Right.
And the brick can be a shade different and it looks totally different, right? So, once you purchase the brick, you make that white might not work. Right? I mean,
And we could definitely have, companies give you various samples, and we can sit down together and review that.
yeah, and that can be done right on the fly, the colorization of the material. So it's not something like, the colorization of material is not something you really order, right? It's an additive to some extent. So that's probably of all the things I have to deal with tonight. That one's the easiest one. We can change the color of that to your satisfaction.
Extracting goes from
The vinyl.
the vinyl.
Moving on.
Moving on, what's the inside gonna look like?
So there are some sheets in there as to the various different layouts. They're all,
Finishes.
excuse me?
Finishes, floors, countertops.
Siding. It's on siding.
Yeah, I don't think we went into the detail of that on this plan.
Do we have any detail on hardwood floors, granite countertops, what type of finishes are we using?
I would say that developer that we work with, typically what they do is use the luxury high vinyl, luxury vinyl flooring, and these that look like woods, you can't really tell the difference. It's really good because as far as wear and tear in the building, it doesn't destroy it. If you put hardwood floors on these things, between dogs, this and that, they destroy it, so it becomes a major problem. So, and if you've seen what they have, as far as that's concerned, it's incredible. Typically, what they do in the kitchens, they usually go with quartz tops, what they typically do. And, you know, a good 6-inch base, so a nice big base, good trimming around all the doors, pretty much solid core panel doors, leaker hardware. It's a very modern, clean look. If you look at all the units, they have like an island on the front. We'll have some like hanging, like, you know, drop fixtures over the island. So it's going to be stainless steel appliances, that. So it's going to be, they're going to be very
A little
nice.
higher now.
Yeah.
Should match the outside.
Correct.
About security cameras?
Yes, there will be, of course.
Correct. And then
Throughout the space.
with regards to, just to that point, how does a tenant enter a building?
Everything's through a top system, so this way it's an easy, you know, nobody's gonna be able to get locked out of their place, you know, they can get in and out, safe access. And what you mentioned before about the UPS guys, and they'll probably get a fob as well too, so they can get in and out and drop their packages and so forth.
And if I may, I know Deputy Chief Corvo sits up here with us. From the police force, the police force also get a fob?
Yes,
Yeah,
fire, police.
all of them get the
Ambulance
And the
corps.
cameras will be hooked up to the fire, to the police department as well too, so they'll have access to it in case anything happens on the street. There'll be cameras in all the corners, so they'll be shared with the
They'll be given them
local law
access.
enforcement.
Cameras aren't monitored, they're just recording, right?
They're not live monitors, they're not. They get recorded, but if your police force has the capacity, you could get direct feed, you know. I mean, it's not a hard thing nowadays with wireless and technology and that, you know, to the common areas. But they would be available to.
We have a $29 router sitting behind us. Do you think it's not easy, it's not that hard to do here?
I'm having a conversation in my head right now, so I'm just gonna keep it there, because, you know, I do have a client. So with regards to the other issues that were raised by the planner, we've addressed all those, is that correct, Albert? With regards to the landscaping and the plantings, I know she has an issue with regards to putting a planter box or some bump out next to driveways and things of that nature.
Right, I mean, right now, that would have to be on the city property line, so.
But the sidewalk is oversized in this area, that it could accommodate that,
Correct.
and still maintain.
Yeah, we could definitely work something together, some plans to put it on the front, that'd be fine, no problem at all.
The reason for that is not only beautification, but really it's a safety issue. So yes, if somebody on their phone walking close to the building, coming up on the driveway, has to walk away from the entrance to the garage.
And even the door entrances.
Exactly. So
Shouldn't they be walking
they
and
have to
seeing
walk
where they're
out
walking?
away from it, and there's less of a chance that
Sort of
there'll
put
be
those red
conflict.
curbs nowadays.
So that is all the questions I have for this witness. I'm sure there may be some, and then a couple people.
Are there any affordable housing units set aside for this development?
There is not. The developer will have to make a contribution to the municipality affordable trust fund, which the requirement, my understanding is that there's a rehab requirement, so that money can be used by the municipality for that purpose.
I think at this time, we're going to take a short 10-minute break to give our court time for a little break. So don't go too far. Call the meeting back to order. You're over there.
I took one of those with me, I didn't want to share. If I open it,
Chairman, I have no questions of the witness.
Does anybody of the board have any questions for our last witness? If not, we're going to open it up to the public. Anybody in the public have questions of this, Mr. Sheldon?
Good evening again, Mike Sheldon, 47 Floyd Street. I guess I just want to say that you're probably relieved that I'm not citing municipal and municipal law statutes tonight. I'm glad that was finally resolved to some degree. At the beginning of the architect's testimony, he said that the 158 units were in compliance what the new zoning requirements. Just for the record, what is the breakdown between one-bedroom and two-bedroom apartments? And if there are any three-bedroom, I think it's all one and two. What is the breakdown?
1 and 2.
Right, but what number of one-bedroom and one and two?
There's 28 2-bedroom.
28, okay.
28, 114 one-bedroom,
There's a couple studios.
and 16, I believe, is on it.
16 studio?
Yeah.
16.
At least that were the numbers that were on this.
As I necessarily have to do at this point, even though I'm a trustee for the Belleville Board of Education, I'm not here representing the board, just as a concerned citizen. But have you done any studies to see the potential number of students your project may add to the Belleville School District?
Well, we've done other studies in other buildings. We did not do a study based on this, but based on the number of units, the number of two-bedroom units, you might get 2 to 3 children in a building of this type, because these buildings are not really conducive to a lot of families bringing children into the space. So if you have a two-bedroom unit, a lot of those people use it for a home office, something like that, or maybe somebody else that, they're taking care of, but typically children families do not move into these types of buildings. That's our experience.
I'll accept your word for it, but with all due respect, just based on reality, what we've seen in other cases, the likely number is probably going to be roughly 10 times that, but we'll see. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. This project has been consistently described tonight as luxury apartments. That's correct, right? These are luxury apartments?
Yeah.
All right. Just for my own edification, what differentiates a luxury apartment from low to moderate income apartments? Just the income of the people moving in?
I would argue that question had a problem in it, because you have luxury, non-luxury, it's a quality, it's not a economic driven. You can have a luxury affordable apartment, you can have a really expensive crappy apartment.
All right, so
Are there washing jars in the units? Yes, they are.
Yes.
So I argue that would be an amenity of a luxury apartment.
And the common space, the gym, and things of that nature. But I just
And
was
the
pointing
finishes,
out,
the granite, the
I
wood.
was just pointing out the question mixed economics with quality.
So luxury is just predicated on the quality of the materials going to the apartment.
Correct.
Do you expect low to moderate income families then to be living in this project, or?
Well, I mean, it all depends, I guess, on the price range, what it's going to be. So it's a matter of that's something that would have to be determined later.
So what concerns me at this moment is that you have luxury apartments, which are probably going to cater to a higher-end clientele, but at the same time, your project got a tax abatement. So, once again, ultimately, Belleville taxpayers are going to be shouldering the tax burden for this project.
Absolutely not true.
Right, we have to continue this online. I know
What do we carry? Are we carrying anything? No.
The project does have a tax abatement, right, for 25 years. So they'll be paying, based on what we've seen on other projects, and I have to Oprah the details from the Franklin Manor thing that was discussed Tuesday night, but these projects, when they have tax abatements, wind up paying only about a quarter of what otherwise people would be paying for the same property size.
I would just suggest that the architect is not the appropriate person to address the tax questions to.
Point taken. Aesthetically, this building is very appealing, and I was pleased to see the mayor indicate that this building will serve as a gateway to Belleville. I'm glad to see that he's saying that it's going to be a gateway for Belleville, because the last time he was on the council, he advocated changing Washington Avenue from Belleville Avenue to Newark as one way, southbound only, to keep Newark residents from coming intoEllville. At the same time...
Is there a question for the architect, sir?
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'm acknowledging the fact that it seems that after the passage of 15 years, that the mayor now is realizing that we don't need to wall off Newark from Belleville, which is something he also wanted to do.
Yeah, this is
15
for
years
questions.
ago.
I want to wall it off?
I have the newspaper article.
I want to, what you're going on the record saying, I want to wall it off?
You said during a council meeting, I think it was in 2002, and I'll post it, I'll put it on your Facebook site, Mayor, so you can deride me. But you are quoted in the article with other colleagues on the council rolling their eyes around in disbelief, but you said on record that if we need a wall, we'll build a wall.
All right, that doesn't pertain to this
All right,
project.
all
So
right, but-
Can we move on,
All right, let me
please?
get back to things. While I said that this building is aesthetically very appealing, it seems that all of the projects that are now coming before the planning board are kind of cookie cutter. So if they're all designed in a very similar way, whether it's this one, the Portland Street project, the...
You travel through the state, that's really basically what you see. Any town doing redevelopment, whether it's Linden, Hackensack, Harrison, I travel throughout the state with my job, and this is what I see. This is what's modern, this is what's redevelopment, this is what they're building.
Well,
Just like maybe in the 60s and 70s, the brick apartment buildings they built in Belleville all look the same. So I think this is a modern building, it's high-quality material, and if you travel throughout the state, you go to you close your eyes, you don't know what town you're in. They're all basically the same, I don't know if you want to call it cookie cutter, but...
Well, but they all are of the same,
Similar.
they're all
Similar
same
design.
mold. They all have that recessed...
Yeah, what's your question?
Well, I just would like to ask if, down the road, if, I think variety is the spice of life. If you wind up putting in a number of these buildings that all look the same, I think rather than enhancing the overall look of Belleville, it's going to detract if we all look like, if all the new buildings look identical to one
I
another.
don't think
Maybe it's like color
I'll make you a
changes.
deal, Mike, the next pilot that we issue for 150 units will look totally different.
Well, I'll believe it when I see it.
Well,
I
if we
just
get hired
wanted-
to do the rest of the buildings in Belleville, then we guarantee we'll change.
I'm sure you'll be happy with that.
I just wanted to express my concern that it does seem that all of these designs are almost identical to one another except for slight color changes. And I would just like to see, personally, I think Belleville would look better with a little bit of variability rather than everything
Thank you.
looking the same.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public? Mr. Frantantoni.
I was wondering why there were no floor plans submitted.
No, there's floor plans.
Huh?
There were.
Not to the public.
I'll give you your own private copy. You can take that one home.
But the time, I'm...
No, but I'm saying they were submitted to the board previously, the floor plans, the layouts.
The public's entitled to look at them at a public hearing, so then we can make comments or ask questions on it. And the reason I ask you, this is the thing there, we have the problem with Essex Park, we have the problem with other ones. Some of them might be so-called dens, which then turn into bedrooms.
No, there's no...
So,
We got rid of that.
your planner,
Well,
If you look at the plan, Mr. Frantantoni, there's no dents, correct?
your planner has taken pains to make sure that that design doesn't bend itself or allow itself to that.
They did all the changes that were requested that came up with that issue.
Well, again, I've never seen a plan submitted without floor plans being publicly presented to the public.
Well, it was presented before, so the plans were presented before the public, and the public had a chance to see those plans
And the
before.
reason, like I said, we saw Essex Park and with the parking, I'll bring it up again because you have to learn it. There's not sufficient parking.
Yeah,
They
I
were
don't think
told
these
they're parking
layouts
in the
lend
golf
themselves to
course
that,
parking
Mr.
lot.
Frantantoni. If you take a look at it, this plan doesn't lend itself to making dents anywhere.
No, I hope not. And the other one, you mentioned the material, going to be cement board.
Yes.
Is that like Durock or Wonder Board?
Well, it's cement just based on that, but it's a different material altogether, so it's
Then
a
you're gonna
combination
put
of
the
that.
stuck on top of it.
No, that is actually the finished material.
The white?
The white was gonna be ethos.
It's two
It
different.
was
You're gonna
two
put
different
the-
colors. The
the
wood
stucco
color was
finish
one,
on
the
it.
solid panels are gray, solid panels, and also the brown wood-looking panels were also gonna be that too.
And I'm talking about the front of the building.
There's two
the white.
different, the cement board, it looks like a siding. It looks like a lap siding.
Like hardy board?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's made
That's
out
like
of...
hardy board, that's what it is. If you're a hardy, you know that's what it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Contract. Now, you also mentioned, at one point, you mentioned dry-bit.
I'm saying the stucco was gonna be one system, whether it's like a, because you wanna be able to, when you do ethos systems, you wanna make sure that it's a system that's backed by the manufacturer, so basically you wanna make sure that all the components that make that system, that make it a tested system, a true system, you wanna make sure that that's put in place. So that's
That was
why
my
we're
question.
gonna,
So you are using IFA system,
yes.
which I don't like, and I think some of the boards don't like it either. I think
Again, it
some-
depends if it's a system or not. What happens a lot of times, they get, one part, that's one of the parts of the system, another part is another one, that's when everything falls apart. You have to have a full system in order for it to be homogeneous and actually to be waterproof, which is the important thing.
Right, and it also depends on the installer, if it's not installed right
Exactly.
and vented properly, I've ripped apart mold behind it.
We all have.
And all, and Owens Corning got millions of dollars in lawsuit with their IFA system. So, and I don't know, some of these board members were opposed to being used in anything, I'm opposed to being used. In fact, they used it across the street, they just ripped it off in the past week, on those stores across the street. And I've seen so many where I've had to rip them off, that, when we open it up, behind it, if it's not installed properly, you got a lot of mold and odors coming in, people can't find it. So I'm opposed to IFA system, I think you ought to ban it in our town. And
Thank you.
I don't know who did it, I don't know, the mayor or somebody once said, we don't want any IFA system in our town,
Thank you, Mr. Frantantoni. Mr. Del Kershaw.
Question based upon the structure of the building. You mentioned before about all the supports in the garage area, and there's going to be 4 stories plus 1 story below ground, am I correct?
Correct.
Is this going to have a steel frame?
No, we're proposing doing concrete at this point in time.
It's going to be concrete?
Correct.
Reinforced concrete?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anybody else in the public?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Is there going to be any rooftop public or residential access on the roof?
No.
What's going to be up there?
Solar panels, and that's it. Mechanicals, yeah.
And what else?
It's not open.
Mechanicals.
It's not gonna be open to the
Solar
residential.
panels?
Yep.
But no access to the public or residents?
Correct.
Has it been, given how transportation is used now by a lot of different people, has consideration been given to any areas for Lyft, Uber, SIP cars to be on the property, for people, for residents to be able to?
An area within the building itself, you're saying?
Yeah, whether it be in the front, in the parking area, we were talking about how there's gonna be possibly a lot of traffic on the avenue. To minimize sort of that traffic, if people in the building are using these services, instead of them being picked up in the front somewhere underneath the building.
No, we hadn't thought about that. We did think about possibly, we were probably gonna propose on doing some 4 E-stations for electric cars in the future in the garage, so we're proposing on doing that too.
That's a great idea.
But as far as Lyft and Uber, you call them, they pull up, you get in the car and you go.
So some of our other developments are making one dedicated spot for
Zip car, right?
zip
Zip
cars.
cars.
Yeah.
You have extra spots.
Yeah, we could do that.
How about storage for the residents, if they want to use bicycles and stuff like that, since a lot of units are going to be studios and
We have a
bedrooms?
bike rack in the garage, so there's 32 bikes being put there. But storage, no, we don't really have any storage for the.
For the residents? But there will be an area for them if they have bicycles to be able to store them
Yes, they have it.
in the building? Retail, is the retail going to be ground level where you can access it from the sidewalk, or do you have to enter the building to get to the
Ground level
retail?
from the sidewalk.
From the sidewalk, accessible? Okay. Is the sidewalk going to be lit up?
What's going to be illumination in the front of the building?
Illumination in front of the building? Is it going to have an awning to the front entrance, sticking out?
Yes, correct.
There is. Okay. Is there going to be a pool on the property for the residents? No pool. I think we mentioned there's going to be surveillance cameras.
Yes.
Right, along the properties. And what about the windows in the building for the residents? Are those windows going to open, or are they sealed?
Some are fixed and some will be open. So there will be an open window in every room in the building.
In every room? Okay. All right, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody else in the public have a question of this witness? If not, would you like to proceed? Do you have another witness, or?
We have no other witnesses.
Okay. Then at this point, is there anybody in the public that has a comment they'd like to make? Go ahead, Mr. Sheldon.
Just one thing. When these applications are submitted, does the developer or any of their associates have to submit any sort of campaign disclosure forms with applications?
I would think not.
There's no requirement to, the reason I ask is I recently discovered something which is very unsettling, and I'll probably be stopped because it doesn't have to do with this particular case, but something you just heard a few months ago. You may remember the sound development project on Franklin Avenue.
Right.
Which I think you heard as a special hearing also last November, and you allowed the developer to put retail on the first floor and add another story to the building. Well, I was reviewing some ELEC materials and discovered that the developer's name, you may remember, is Mr. Pasillo. Right. I discovered that at the end of last July, shortly after the council approved the zoning changes to accommodate that project and others, Mr. Mellum received 2 campaign contributions from Mr. Pasillo to a 2022 campaign account, which he didn't report until January of this year. So he's going to argue, well, I didn't participate in the hearing, nor did I have my rep participate. But in the last year or so, he has usurped appointment power for the planning board, so to a large degree, he does control what the planning board does and doesn't do. He has majority control of it, but I just wanted to go on record, and I wanted Mr. Mellum to know that we are now aware that there was a campaign...
I'm sure they're all public records, correct?
They are public records, but the way this happened...
He's aware because I upload the documents he's got in his hand.
No, I don't have it with me, it's in storage in my own cranium. But you,
Yeah, I'm sure
the
it's all
case
public
is,
information.
you received 2 campaign contributions from Mr. Pasillo at the end of July. October, this board heard the case and approved the changes to his plan, which included another floor and retail. May not be, certainly not a pay-for-play violation, but obviously quid pro quo. So authorities have been notified, we'll see what comes of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Devereaux.
I have one more follow-up question based on the answer to Mr. Lopez. The windows, you said each room would have a window that opens?
Correct.
How much would it open? I mean, is there a danger?
No, they have the 4-inch lock that basically, so people won't open more than 4 inches, so people can't fall through.
Okay, okay. All right, that's the only question.
If nobody in the public has any further comment, we'll close the public portion of the meeting at this time. Would you like to make a summation?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to review quickly some of the issues. So with regards to the parking, we were going to assign those 6 spaces to be cut out to accommodate the 24-foot in that lower level. We're going to provide an auto turn radius to your engineer to ensure that all the parking is we're going to work and comply with the stormwater regulations that the town sees fit for a building of this size. With regard to zoning, my suggestion is, and you can tell me if I'm correct or wrong, that would be left to the municipal council to see if we can get a loading zone for this building. But to accommodate the parking requirements or the load and unloading of residents and smaller vehicles, we will eliminate or dedicate 2 parking spots on the main level next to the lobby for those in and out type of vehicles that can accommodate inside there. With regards to the architectural, we will do our best. We will change the main entrance so it is not completely brick. We'll work with the city planner to put some spandrel and then carry that through to break up that brick. We will also ensure that the decorative areas of the sidewalk complies with the standards that are mandated by the city or Department of Transit. We will change the south elevation of the building to make sure that the material used in the front of the building will also be carried out on the south side completely, that there won't be any differential or lesser quality material. With regards to the rear, what I heard, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that a lower quality material subject to approval by your planner is permitted on portions of the rear building. It is not permitted on the recess where the lobby outdoor terrace is. That should be the same quality material, hardy board, cement board, and the fiber board that are required. And in the 4 recesses where the windows goes back, that material. But the request would be that we would work with the planner to ensure a quality product, but not necessarily those type of products for the remainder of that product. Right? I know we also will work with the drainage issue that the engineer pointed out with regards to the main parking lot, but I think that was.
The sign south side, the south side.
He said the
The
material on
temporary
the south
sign.
side, but also the canopy on the south side of the building.
Yeah, and then the signage, I believe we were allowed to have temporary signage as depicted in the rendering, not to exceed 6 months without under pain of death from the first TC.
And stormwater management plan submitted to Mr. Harris?
To satisfy your water company and your engineer.
That's it. Okay.
Otherwise, I think, you know, it's a good-looking building. Right now, I drive into Belleville, I don't live here, but I know what the site can look like and will look like. And I think if you close your eyes or you drive in and you picture that, it will drastically change. Anyone who comes to this building to visit, or anyone who comes to do any business here, will see that building when they drive by. And I think it's a great start. And I think as it continues, you will see better and, you know, more aggressive type of quality buildings. And I think this is a great start.
You have on the, can you just also say that you're going to work with our planner and the state with regard to the sidewalk scape?
Correct, I did say that.
Right now, the sidewalk that you're showing kind of mirrors what's out here in front of Town Hall.
Correct. We left it
We'll leave it.
to that, but we understand that there's a Washington Avenue program that we would comply with, whatever that is. So whatever cost is associated with that, I believe that was in the redevelopment plan also.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I think so far, state's design isn't doing sidewalk, they're doing up to the curb, but.
But your planner can incorporate whatever the state design is. And it should really be an example for what you want the rest of Washington area to look like.
Marble, loose leaf.
Well, our design does have, I mean, we didn't go really into detail, there's 13 new street trees that go in, there's some benches and where the bus area would be and things of that nature. And it is.
Benches.
Yeah, it is, right, you know, but you depend on which benches you pick and what they do. But it can accommodate it, that's the point, right? The sidewalk isn't a 4-foot or 6-foot or an 8-foot, it's 12, 13 feet in some spots. So it's a good pedestrian plaza where, people could walk. And I thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Especially for the cookies.
Mr. Conti. At this time, would someone like to make a motion for approval of this application with the conditions just listed by Mr. DeMarco?
Motion.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Venero,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Mr. Vanda,
Yes.
Mr. Gold,
Yes.
Mr. Graziano,
Yes.
Mayor Melham.
Yes.
Ms. Rico. Yes. And Mr. Guyan.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the meeting.
Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.
Appreciate it.